Oh, I never heard it talk like that before. What? I never heard it do that before. But anyway, all right. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is like the directing actors, all the stuff.
Oh wait, it's because it just sent me a notification. It said this meeting is being recorded, so you must so by clicking continue, you consent to being recorded, and then it asked if I wanted to leave the meeting or continue. So it probably just letting people know.
Oh, that's cool. That must be new.
Yeah, that was missing in Zoom for a while because I was like, well, someone can just record this and the other person won't even know.
Right. Did everyone else get that notification?
Yep.
Like, oh, okay, that's cool.
I did. Good. I got it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, that way you probably won't have to say it every meeting now. Yay.
Yeah.
Probably good just for the first few, but yeah.
So some of the things about the directing actors, like I just wrote down a bunch of notes, and some of the stuff they were saying is like you want to be really precise and really short with the explanation of what you want as a director. You don't want to over explain things because then it starts to confuse all the actors, because if you're telling them 30 things, especially if it's contradictory, they're going to get really confused really fast. And some of the videos were kind of explaining like how a director sometimes can go about doing that when they're like one of the examples they gave was like, he was saying, so in this scene, you're going to be really shy, but you're also really excited. So really just keep that shy excitedness within yourself during the whole scene. And like, that's kind of contradictory because when you're shy, you're not really that, like you don't feel and act excited. So it's very different than being just kind of nervous or whatever emotion you're trying to get them to portray. And it's also kind of telling them how to act, how to be, what kind of emotion to feel. And a lot of the video, like almost every single one we watched, said that is a big thing not to do. Don't tell them what emotion to feel. Let them be the character, and then they can feel that emotion as they go. And you can give them their motivation, give them their objective within the scene. And then you kind of let them work out how to do the scene within, because they're the character, they're the actor, they're the ones who are going to be inside that mindset. So they need to be able to feel that emotion as they go through and kind of react to the whole scene instead of just like be sad. Like you shouldn't just tell them to be sad. You should let them, why are they sad? Why is this character sad in this scene? Is that, they just broke up with their girlfriend or whatever the reason is. So you got to like kind of delve into the reasoning behind it and then kind of let the actor go with it. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good. How y'all doing?
Doing good. I'm glad you came in so you can kind of talk about your perspective on all these things. But yeah, so a lot of the videos were saying, you want to be really short with your directing, and you want to just like make sure not to over explain things and not to over direct, not to micromanage. They were giving an example of like an example of a director that told the actor to be mad on this first line, but then when you hear her respond, you're kind of forgiving her, but then you think about it and you're kind of going back into your head and you're thinking, no, she's not right. And then you get mad again and you just harden your resolve, and then you're even angrier. And so it's giving like too many different takes on the scene, because then they're going to be thinking about when to be angry, when to be confused, when to feel which feeling. And you don't want that. You don't want them to be inside their head thinking about all that stuff. You want it to flow out naturally while they're acting in the scene.
They'll be overthinking it way too much.
Yeah, like you don't want to give them a play-by-play of like, be mad on this word, and then the next word be a little less mad.
And then they won't focus on their performance either, because they'll be too busy trying to do what you wanted them to do and what you told them to do, instead of actually like feeling out the scene, feeling the performance, playing off the other actors, and that.
Yeah. So
and also they already have their script, so those emotions should hopefully come through in what they're saying.
Yes. But you'd be surprised. Apparently a lot of the directors were kind of saying it in a bit of a tone, like read the script before you come, because apparently it's a common thing for them.
It was both ways. There were a lot of videos were saying that sometimes
the director wouldn't.
they need to, like, when you're directing, you need to know the script inside and out. You need to know what the subtext, the context, and the actual text is. You need to know what the characters, why are they doing this? What's their motivation? You know, why are they upset in this scene? If you don't know that, then you need to go over the script and figure it out, because an actor is going to be looking to you as the director to kind of give them that instruction if they don't know it themselves. And so you guys can kind of bounce ideas off each other and figure it out.
Yeah, one of the biggest frustrations that one of the actors said was he would want to ask the director about his character and his motivations, and like to try to understand better what he wants for that scene. And he would just be like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Do whatever you feel is right. And you could obviously tell he didn't study the script as much either. And that was really frustrating for the actor. Of course, we went back and forth with it because we were like, well, some actors also ask way too much. Like, what's my motivation for being mad, for this or being that? And we also understand that it can be like a little complicated sometimes, but it is the job of a director to know the script and to know how to explain as much as he can if the actor is asking that. If not, don't over explain to him every single thing. But if he comes to you and asks a question about his character, trying to understand this emotion or this scene in particular, you should know that.
Yeah, they were saying that like everything should be important. If they're asking, if anybody's asking, really, like you should take it seriously and not just be like, I don't know, just do it however, because like that's just kind of dismissive, and it doesn't really help anybody, and it doesn't there's no collaboration to work off of that if you're just like,
Not to mention, it's just disrespectful to the actor because it's making it seem like, oh, whatever, just do whatever you do, as if it's not work, as if it's not, it doesn't take actual like thought and motivation and work to get there, to get to that emotion.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. I mean, that doesn't bother me, but I mean, I understand like a lot of other people like to, you know, be like, oh yeah, giving a lot of praise and stuff really does like help on the good points, and then giving a couple criticisms. I find that works very well.
gotcha.
Yeah, we're not talking about praise. We're talking more about the fact that, like, if an actor asks you, oh, hi, Sarah, by the way. If an actor asks you to about his character and about the motivation and about the scene, that you should know the script and you should know how to explain that to him, because a lot of directors don't study the script. Not a lot, but some directors don't. And we're saying that if you just dismiss the actor and are like, oh, yeah, whatever, just do whatever you want, or, oh, it doesn't matter, just do whatever you think is best, you're kind of not helping him do his job. You know, you're not helping him understand it better, and you're kind of dismissing the work that goes into that.
Yeah, because they're asking for a reason is the.
I have a, if I interject.
Oh, what was that?
I'm Angel, just joining the group. I have a funny story, if I may interject.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
go
yeah,
ahead.
sure.
Angel.
I love your name. I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Thank you. I love this group. I'm excited. So I was just watching what's it called? My Week with Marilyn. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. But it was like he was like a third assistant director, which means he was like a gopher.
Okay.
It was from his point of view. And they were doing they were covering this movie that I guess Laurence Olivier directed, Marilyn Monroe.
Mhm.
And he was super frustrated with her because she knew film and he knew theater. Right? Laurence trying to break into theater, and Marilyn Monroe was trying to get a little bit more theater into film. So they were like frustrated with each other. And at one point he was directing her and he said, you just do sexy, right? That's what you do. Just put that in there. And she was literally, she had her like method acting teacher on coach on site with her. And she was literally like, I can't work under this. She was like, I can't do it, you know?
Yeah.
But he was literally talking down to Marilyn Monroe, saying that basically like all she did was sexy. And she was literally trying to be considered as a real actress, you know?
Oh, I mentioned so much. Like, I think I've mentioned like 4 times in this group how Marilyn Monroe and James Dean were one of the like original ones to bring method acting and like more natural acting into the industry, and how frustrating it was for them to have to, and for other people too, because they didn't know how to act off of that. And it just made it so weird when you would watch the old movies and see them overacting and theater acting, and then them trying to actually give a dramatic performance. It was a very interesting transition.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And then I've heard it's helpful to, as a director, to like kind of like have a couple copies of the script. Like they one copy you lock out for camera angles and logistics and that kind of thing, and maybe you have another one on set that has like more about characters' motivations. And because I remember I had a really good instructor in Hawaii, and he was like, literally, you should have a motivation for everything you do, sitting down, standing up, anything, the movement as well as the wording. So it seems like, yeah, just having one script block out just for character.
Like you can put the little notes in the margins for that kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
That's smart.
What's your question?
Oh no, I meant like by having multiple scripts, you mean like one with notes for this and one with notes for that?
Yes. So I think I've heard from another internship I was taking, like you have one read through where you go through and you just put notes in for like camera angles or logistics of crew and movement and, you know, those kind of things. And then you have another copy where you just, you know, write in like character motivations and stand up. Why did they sit down? Do they want, what kind of, I had an acting coach say that every time you moved or said something.
Yeah, in the first semester, we do talk about script breakdowns and how the producers, the directors, the script supervisors will break down a script, and they will bring that to the heads of the departments and have like everything color coded so they will know which parts they need to focus on and which parts they need to bring. But yeah, it is definitely good for the actors to go through the script and just study the script as well. That's definitely good.
True. I liked what you were saying also. With the director looked at it in terms of the actors' motivations and that kind of thing. It's like you're able to respect and maybe even collaborate with them more.
Yeah, like they were saying, like during rehearsal is the time, like we'll get into rehearsals later, but rehearsal is the time to really try things out, see what works, see what doesn't, see what the lines work, see if a character makes sense, their motivation makes sense, especially to the actor, because and so all the things you're saying is exactly like it goes along with all this, because it's just like they need to be in that space and be able to do it. And yeah, like the multiple scripts, I think when you have like a shooting script, one is different people have different scripts as well. Like different set positions will have different scripts to go over their specific things, because like an assistant director will be looking at different things than the script supervisor and stuff like that. So yeah, someone will be looking just at the story, the script supervisor. Assistant director might look at more technical stuff. A director of photography might have one that has like camera shot details, and then the director might have a few variations like you were talking about. Yeah, Brian Booker is saying that in the chat, so I'm just gonna read this out. He said, this has nothing to do with the subject for this meeting, but he wanted to share with everybody a site that he's used for finding locations. And if they haven't gone over it already, it's peerspace.com.
I'm saving it and putting it in the WhatsApp group for you guys.
So it's just like Airbnb, but for office space, tons of random locations and studios.
You mean Spacebinder, right?
What was that?
Yeah.
Spacebinder, right? Yeah,
Well,
I was
it's
watching the video on that.
it's called, this one is called Peerspace, but it looks identical to Airbnb, but it's for look. There's a lot of like photography studios. There's a couple mansions in here. There's a dentist office in here and all a bunch of stuff. You just put in your location and then it'll find places that put their space up for rent.
That's really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just now using it, and I was like, this has been there this whole time, and I just been like fighting the bullet, like calling places to see if I can film when I have this space here. I mean,
Yeah.
some
And
of
then
the
you
places,
know
some of
that
the
you can
places
use the
are
space. That's cool.
some of the places are really expensive. Like a lot, I can tell you right now, a lot of these photography studios are overcharging. It's like $150 an hour
Holy
for a
crap.
photography studio, but I'm like, I've been to photography studios and they don't cost that much. But it's definitely where, like, I just secured a church. So for my next scene in the movie I'm shooting, it's gonna be in a church. So this is like an old historic church that we're about to shoot in. So it's gonna look great. But
Awesome. V, do you want me to send it through email for you as well? Or do you have it saved already?
But yeah, that's really cool because like unless because it's like Airbnb, but you already know these people are willing to let you, get their location signed for shooting. So it's instead of just going to Airbnb and be like, hey, by the way, when I rent your space, can I use it to shoot? And going through all that headache.
They have more.
I feel like if it's
Airbnb
specific. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Airbnb is more like a house, an apartment, kind of like a hotel, kind of. This is more like if you're looking for like a mansion, they have those in there. There's a dentist office in there. There's churches, all kinds of stuff in there. Like if you need like an office building, if you're shooting like an office scene, they have that in there as well. Like a whole bunch.
And I feel like if it's for filming, you can negotiate the rates, right? Because you're not going to be there just for one day. Sometimes, like Airbnb would, you might have to shoot multiple days, multiple locations. Like you can maybe talk to the owner and be like, hey, I'm going to need this for this amount of room. Can you?
Yeah.
Do you think that's possible?
You can talk. Like I just got done talking to the lady. Like you can negotiate. It's all up to them. They put their rates up there, and you can just negotiate whatever you want to negotiate with them.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm not going to take up your time with it. I just wanted to put it out there because I'm just now using it, and I'm like,
no, but awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks for sharing.
It's a great resource.
Yeah, I'll definitely like look into it later. All right. But yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments so far on directing actors? I mean, we haven't really covered very much, but I just wanted to kind of in the conversation.
Okay.
5, 4.
So for directing actors, just know that every actor is different and every actor comes with their own level of intensity that they bring. And, every actor you have to learn to accustom yourself to that actor's ability in order to get the performance that you're looking for from them. Like every actor you're not going to be able to use the same approach on every actor, and it's not going to work that way. So you have to kind of learn what each actor is like good at.
Yeah, we definitely heard that a lot. Oh, speaking of,
the way I was looking at that is like when you, it's just like anything else. Like when you have a character, or in-person interactions with other people, like sometimes a sense of humor will be really good with one person, and then you'll try that sense of humor on someone else. They won't think it's funny, or they'll take offense to it, or whatever. So you have to like kind of figure out the approach to take with everybody, and that's the same.
Yeah,
the way I was seeing it is just like it's kind of the same way when you're directing. And
I had
actors different, their approach is different. Sometimes they were saying in some of the videos that an actor might want to know what's the framing, what's the scene going to be like, what's everything, the technical side. They might want to know everything, or they might want to know none of that and just be like, you just tell me where to go and I'll do it, and I'll do it when I can. And
a good example they gave was just like in your life you show different aspects of your personality to different people, and so it's pretty much the same way. Like you won't be able to deal with every actor the same way because they'll have different personalities, which will need to bring out different aspects of your personality to be able to interact and relate to them. Brian, you were going to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, there's that aspect of, just being able to work with different people and stuff like that. But then what I was really referring to, like, I'll give you an example. Like I had an actor that on my first film, like in film school, the very first actor, this is my first experience like working with actual actors and not like other students and friends. And I had one guy who was an actor. He'd done tons of films, so he had experience, but like whenever we would, hit the record button, call action, like he would just completely like destroy it. Like he just become this theatrical actor. And I was trying to figure out a way to have him stop doing that. And it's like he just every time, like it never failed, like every time action. And he would just like, it was like watching a theater play or something. So like what I discovered was that he would do it perfectly when we would rehearse. So like before we would record, like he would recite his lines like perfectly. But like whenever we called action or recorded and called action, like he would just change. So like I had to trick him. Like I would switch it up. Like I was like, all right, guys, look, we're
Hide the
not gonna
camera.
call action. We're just gonna tell him this is a rehearsal and just push the record button. So that's what we had to do to get the performance out of him. We had to like fake the
You didn't
funk.
figure it out eventually? Like,
Figured
hey,
it
we've been
out.
rehearsing for a long time.
Yeah,
So the next
and
shoot
he
that guy
never
goes on,
picked up
if they
on
see
it.
your film and hire him based off your thing, they're gonna be like,
Yeah,
that
but
guy's great. And then they're gonna hire him on their project and then find out, oh,
yeah, that's
Hey.
the sort.
that's
What we had to do.
yeah,
Like you have to
just
learn
kinda
how
have
to like.
figure out, problem solve everything, just like anything else. I feel like that was a really good way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. But like I said, when did he figure it out? Because like I
Oh,
feel like
he
at
never
some
figured it out.
point,
Luckily,
what?
he wasn't a lead actor. He wasn't a lead, so he only had like a couple lines. So he never really picked up on it. So we would do like a couple rehearsals, and then I was like, all right, those are the best takes. And when I felt good, I was like, all right, we're gonna record. And then we only recorded like 1 or 2 takes, and he was just like, oh, you're good. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Ah, okay.
But
Because I was like, wasn't he suspicious?
the biggest thing I picked up from that shoot was at the end, like we had a little recap, at the end, and the lead actor came to me and he said to me, he enjoyed the shoot. Like he was like, yeah, we're all cool people. Everything went good. But his only takeaway for me was like, he said, I wish you could have, and this is me learning. I wish you could have given me a little bit more feedback. This is the lead actor. So, and then on that, when I took it, because like I never really, because I was so focused on getting all the other like this guy was good. He was doing a good job. So I never really gave him any direction or anything because he was doing a good job.
You
Everything
didn't
he was
think he
doing was
needed
good.
it.
I didn't think he needed it.
Yeah.
And like he was just like, even though like I was, you thought it was good, he was like, it's still good to know that. So
Yeah,
that's
one
what
of
I
the
learned.
videos we watched, he kept mentioning, we're sensitive people, okay? You got to tell us we're pretty and we're doing a good job. And
Exactly. Like you have to, so that's what I took out. So from that point on, like every shoot, like I make sure that I go to each actor and say, you did good. This was good. I like that, or whatever. Even if that's it, if that's all I have to do, like that's what I do.
that's
Yeah.
just human
Make
nature.
sure.
People like to know that they're doing a good job and that they're giving you what you want. And they don't need to be second guessing themselves. Like, okay, this is good. They're happy with my performance. I don't need to overthink it. I don't need to second guess it.
Yeah, I totally understand that though, like the whole not really thinking about it, because there's just so much going on that you don't really think about it in the moment until you
And
really
you think that they need help, but this guy, he's great. So I don't need to. Yeah.
Mhm.
I did want to say, like, before we continue, because Coda's going to mention the table read later. Learning more about working with actors made me understand so much more what you and Jorge were saying last meeting about table reads and not
Oh yeah, I was gonna
overacting
bring
and
that up
not.
too.
Yeah.
Gosh, it made me understand what you meant so much better because I
Mhm.
feel like when the actors explained it or when the director explained it, I just understood it so much better. And I was like, oh, that's what you mean. That's what they meant. And we'll
Yeah,
get to that
it made
later.
a lot more sense of like why not to have them do it in the first table reading. And so we were like, okay, I get it now, like why they were saying just have it, just kind of do a what's it called, a dry read. And
I just wanted to give you the you were right spiel, just so you know. Make you feel good.
That's a good spiel. You were right, spiel. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it helps to give some praise if you have nothing else to say, because then it's like, at least then somebody knows they're going in the right direction. So yeah, I agree with that.
But
One
it's
of the
not.
guys was just like, yep, good, great. Thanks.
It's not
That
just
would be
acting
crazy.
too. It's not just acting. It's like when you're directing, you have to have that mindset with like all the other departments do. You have to direct the DP, you have to direct everybody. So that's the thing you got to keep in mind too. You're not just directing actors, you're directing the rest of the crew.
Yeah, you're leading the set, so you need to like give feedback to like, good job on the camera, good job on that.
Before we continue, oh sorry, honey, you want to finish your thought?
I was done.
Okay, sorry. Audio again. I don't know what's wrong with my internet. So I was just gonna say before we continue, if anyone has like a question or a comment, either use a little raising hand emoji or you can comment in the chat like, hey, I have a question, I have a comment. That way you guys can talk to you. It's not just like the 3 of us or the 4 of us. If you have something to add, feel free. We're here to learn together, study together. That's what the study group's all about.
That's true.
Yeah. So I like everybody, like seriously, like I want to hear everybody's perspective on it because you might have a way,
especially the actors.
That too. And then, or just like anybody, if you guys are new, you haven't done anything yet, like I still want to know what you guys think about everything. Because I'm pretty new, Priscilla's new, we're just kind of learning all together of what like our perspective is on it, and then hearing from people who've worked with others and kind of just going through everything. So it's nice to hear from different perspectives and get ideas and communicate with this whole group, everybody.
And Coda told me not to put everyone on the spot anymore, so I can't just be like, so-and-so, you have an opinion? So I'm trying to give you guys the freedom.
Angel asked, what are the teams you have to direct? There's the camera department. You have to kind of like direct them and how to do that with the DP.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The director of photography or cinematographer, however you want to call him, he'll be like overseeing it, but you're talking to the director of photography about how to move the camera and what the overall feeling of the scene is going to be. That way he can forward that to his department and they can all set it up the way you feel like it should be, and you can leave them feedback. Acting, of course, and then there's the like the grip department, which is, you know, the ones moving all the dollies and all that stuff in the camera. If the camera department's not doing it themselves, the grip department helps out in that aspect. There's like the lighting department, which works with the camera department. So they're all kind of working together. But
wouldn't the DP be directing the lighting and the director would be
directing
the DP?
Like, overall, it's the director's call at the end of the day. If he's like, I don't like this lighting in this, then
yeah, but wouldn't it be like chain of command? The director talks to the DP, DP talks to the lighting.
Mostly, yeah. But it's also just like they were saying, it's also a way to kind of. Oh, Jorge, go ahead.
Well, it is important that people understand that when you're directing, you're not a babysitter. You're not the nanny of everybody. You have to make sure that they do their job, but you have to focus on the creative aspect. And that's why you hire people that are talented to help you. And they have proven themselves to you, that they have proven that they can get their departments under control, because you can't be telling everybody. I had a very, one of the first experiences that I had was I was teaching the sound guy how to hold the boom mic. So, and it was because I was working with amateurs. So the problem is, you're gonna face those problems, and if you don't know how to deal with them, then you're gonna get stuck, and you're gonna lose so much time, precious time, I mean resources and stuff, in doing things that you're not supposed to be focused on. So if you have you have to, again, I think the biggest part of directing is getting a good team that knows what they're doing and that can help you convey your vision.
That makes sense.
You got to trust your team, right? Otherwise, correct, you can't count on them. Sorry, go ahead, Angel.
Oh no, I've just I got to observe a production crew, Ocean Beach over here, and I was behind the director for about a week. It was McNamara Brockwell Productions for My Book, and yeah, they're each of their teams were they were like really always staying in communication with each other. So it was awesome because the main director, Sean McNamara, could really, like someone said, I think Jorge said, he could really kind of keep his eye on the creative aspect, but at the same time, like logistics, or they would check each other, and they respected each other, but they were always staying in communication. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's why we always say it's a group effort. Everyone is important. If you don't have someone who knows what they're doing, if you can't trust the people you're working with, you're going to be constantly worried about, oh, are they doing this right? Are they doing that right? But if you have confidence in the people you're working with in your group, then you can know, oh, he's doing a good job. I don't need to worry about that. I can focus on this.
That makes sense.
I can
Yeah.
focus on my job.
It's definitely a team effort, because you need all the pieces to fit together.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, there's
people need to
also,
be
like,
honest on their
when you're
skill
first-
too.
when you're first starting out, I feel like there's also kind of a give and take with that, though, because I feel like if you know more than some of your crew, you should still be able to be helpful and try to like bring them up to speed, or at least find somebody that can.
Definitely, if we're all learning together.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I don't know, like sometimes I get what you guys are all saying, but I just like, I look at it from the other perspective of like, if you're trying to be, if you're new, you're probably not going to have a very experienced crew. And so you kind of want to all work together to just kind of bring it out. So it's still a collaboration, but it's just like you want to be able to help each other as well.
But that's why I agree with what Brent said.
Focus on every aspect at the same time. So
But that's why I agree with what Brent said. You gotta also be honest about your skill level, and be like, because Brent was saying in the chat, if you can come to people and be like, okay, this is what I know, but I want to learn more. I want this, like, if you give me this chance, you teach me, I'll work hard and I'll try it, and just be honest. Hey, I know how to do this. I don't know this as well. And then we'll help you. We'll, as a team, we'll figure it out, especially in the beginning, because we're still learning and we're still growing together. Because in the beginning, you have to be able to be given those opportunities as well. Otherwise, you'll never grow. So there has to be people that are willing to be like, you know what, you don't know as much, but this time we're going to, for example, like in the future, we hope to have little smaller, like mini productions together, so we can just like work together and learn together and figure it out. That way, when we do like bigger stuff, we got it somewhat figured out. And that's why we're learning right now. Like, we're learning the different aspects so that when we do get together to shoot and whatever, we got it all figured out. We know what everyone thinks they're good at, what everyone wants to try out, what everyone has the basic knowledge down. And so, yeah, it's definitely be honest. Don't be afraid of being like, man, I want to work on this so hard, but I don't know this. Be honest, and we'll try to work with you and find a place that, is, and if you're a hard worker and you try to learn and you do your best, trust me, that will be valued. People will notice that. Like, okay, he didn't know as much, but he came in, he learned quick, he figured it out, he did his job, people really appreciate that. Hard workers.
True, yeah. Definitely. I would have to agree with that. Because if there's a learning curve, but you're willing to take the learning curve, then it's manageable. But yeah, that I definitely agree.
Yeah, like, so that's why I was saying, like, I'm talking about this group specifically more, and that's why I was kind of going in it at a more, I don't know, like a group, kind of like a course, but like an acting course, but it's for like crew instead. So that's the way I look at it. Like, we would all get together and kind of do it like that after learning this stuff, and then everybody can kind of figure out what their specific thing is that they want to do, and kind of go more into that aspect so that they can focus on that, and then everyone can start trusting each other to, okay, he knows he wants to do sound, so let's let him do sound, and then see what happens.
It's also good to help, because when you come into the industry, you're like, oh, this is so cool, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, and you don't really know the differences in everything and the work that goes into every tiny little thing. So the more you learn, it's also good for you to see, okay, this is what I think I'd be good at. This is what I want to dedicate myself to. This is what I think I could, I want to learn more about. So you also see, holy crap, look at how much goes into moving the camera. Look at how much goes into lighting. Look at how much goes into that. And you also have an idea of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's really easy for you to lose yourself and think you want to do everything and not really know where you fit in this big machine, you know?
True, but you know, acting is kind of like playing many different parts. So
Well, yeah, but acting's like its own
Yeah.
thing. So that's
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying, but yeah, no, it's true. Everything is
Always
extremely.
got to play devil's advocate, Sarah.
Yeah, no, because it's all interesting, which kind of makes it more fun. And then you're right, as you learn more, then you're like, okay, I'm more interested in learning more about these aspects and these other aspects, which makes sense. So
Yeah, that's why I like just having kind of an overview of everything and kind of delving in so we can all see from each person's perspective on set. And then everyone knows like why everyone else is what they're doing and why and you know how they're going about their job. And you can kind of start telling if somebody's good at it or not later on once we figure out more of how to do it well, pretty much.
And if you want to dedicate yourself to like 2 things or try 2 or 3 things, like that's fine, but also know like, okay, I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. Like, let's be real. I'm legally blind. I'm not going to be working lights. Like I'm sure that there can be, I'm sure that people with a little more vision than me could. I couldn't. Let's be real. I trip on those things first. Be horrible. But I'm really good with logistics. So like I found my place. Okay, I'm good with the whole logistics thing, paperwork, secretarial stuff, like production. I'm good with that. That's my area. That's what I'm good at. I'm not an actor. I'm not a director. I'm good at that. You know,
I'd
and
also
it
like
brings
to
comfort.
add,
Yeah.
so to get back on topic with directing acting, you're not always going to be directing actors. Not everybody you're directing is good. Like I did a shoot last Wednesday. It was a corporate video, and these guys weren't actors. These were just like big time executives. The good thing about it is like when I normally do corporate gigs, I have an understanding that a lot of these guys own their company or the VPs of their company or the presidents of their company. So I have an understanding that like a lot of these guys, you know, I talk to them about their company, and a lot of these guys are really good when it comes to speaking in public. Some of them have never been on camera before, and like the second you put the camera and the lights on them, they kind of turn into this different person, and you have to learn how to direct them in a specific way. But then
Oh my gosh, yeah, we're definitely going to discuss directing non-actors. There's a really good video that I'll send to you guys that I forgot.
But some of them, like a lot of like the guys I just did the shoot with, these are like big time. Like we went to this one guy's house. He has like a $3 million house, and like he knows how to talk. He knows how to like give speeches and stuff. So like it wasn't hard to get that aspect, but it was just hard to get him to not look into the camera or to not look that way because the light over there is going to cast a shadow or something like that. So I had to learn how to direct them in a specific way. And then you have like, let's just say you're dealing with athletes or something like that. You have to learn how to direct people that don't know how to read a script or don't know screen direction or don't know any of that type of stuff. So you got to keep that in mind too when it comes to directing. There's different types of directing, different approaches, and you're not always going to be dealing with actors every time.
Yeah. So a lot of the videos, some of them were talking about not just corporate videos and stuff like that, but it was also talking about like what happens when you have, you know, maybe it's your first shoot and you have your friend. So how do you direct them? And they were saying like what the differences are, because when you have people that are actually trying to make it a career, they've probably, you know, read the script and maybe taken an acting class or watched some stuff and really researched into it a little bit. So they kind of know how to go about doing it and talking about the character and their motivations. But if you have like a friend or someone who hasn't acted in anything before, they might not really know how to get in that headspace and delve deeper into it. And so they were talking about how with people who are brand new to it, you kind of want to walk them through it a little more than you would with someone who's been doing it or who's been studying it, because you want to, like, you're going to give, one of the things that they said not to ever do for most actors is not to read the lines to them. Like, don't act out the line yourself, as in like do it like this, because then they're going to be thinking like, oh, I'm not doing it exactly like they said it, or they're putting a little bit of more of a they're spreading their word apart in this.
They'll be trying too hard to mimic exactly what you did instead of what the sentiment of the scene, the feeling of the scene. No, they'll be trying to mimic exactly what you said, and they won't actually deliver a good performance.
So they were saying like, most actors who have been working in it, they hate when directors try to do that, or when they like try to show them like, so when you're being excited, just be kind of like, and then like they're trying to mimic that facial expression you made. But they said with new people, with people who haven't worked like that before, they might want that. So it's more important, instead of just having a set way of doing it, like you were saying earlier, instead of having a set way of doing it with each individual, kind of figure out what they need and what they need from you. Because certain actors will want you to give them that direction, and most probably don't, but some might like it. How do you want me to do it? Just so I can do it that way, because I don't feel like jumping through hoops trying to figure out what you mean, something like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jorge. What's up?
Yeah, there's a tone that you have to kind of go with when you're directing people. Like I had one actor who I was like, get mad or be madder or more angry. And I learned this one, he was like getting louder. So then I was every time he goes, like I'm telling him to be more angrier, but he's getting more louder. And I like to do
guys,
this.
Even Brian does amateur moves.
Yeah, this is me in like film school talking to these guys. So I learned that way. I was like, well, maybe if I try this different approach. So I pulled him aside. I was like, all right, you can be angry without being so loud. Like try to be angry without using facial expressions. Just use your eyes or whatever. Because if you're naturally angry, it's going to show regardless, without like making faces or being loud.
Yeah, those people that are angry and they creep the hell out of you because they're so calm.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Because he didn't understand the direction I was giving him at first, because I just kept telling him, matter. And he just kept giving me louder and louder. So you have to find a way to reword your words. I've been on set where I was a sound guy, and I was listening to this one director try to direct one of his actresses, and he was just telling her the same thing over and over and over, just like I kind of was. And then, being the sound guy, I'm listening to all, because she's mic'd, so I can hear their conversation, and I'm just like, we're gonna be here forever. So like, I didn't cut in and tell her or direct her anything. I just went to the director direct, I was like, you're just kind of giving her the same direction. I was like, try a different approach, and he did, and she was like, okay, I get it now. That's much better, because just over and over and over again trying the same thing over and over again, it's just not going to work. You have to try a different approach. And then some actors just can't give you that performance. You have to maybe take a different approach to it. Not every actor has the ability to, like Johnny Depp can play any part and give you any expression, but not every actor can do that. So you have to have that understanding that sometimes you're trying to get a performance out of somebody who just isn't that. And I've had that situation too, who just isn't that person. Like you want somebody to be a stone cold spy killer, but they're a third grade teacher by day. So it's not in their nature to do that. So casting, that's all casting too. You have to learn how to cast. But then again, some actors have to learn, like, maybe that's not the best role for me. Like if you don't think you can physically give a performance like what's in the script, then don't do it. But if it's something that you want to do, go for it.
Yeah, Raphael, I definitely agree with
the videos, like what you just said, is one of the things I said not to do actually was not to tell them what emotion to have, but kind of like talk to them about what the character's doing in that scene, and what is their objective, what do they want from the scene, and that way they kind of understand. They'll get to that place. They'll get to know, like, okay, so he's angry because she isn't telling him, whatever the reason is. Like maybe the reason is the other actress is lying to him and he's getting mad at her because, he knows that she's not telling him the truth. And so in the scene, it doesn't show that, but the subtext and the context. So you're kind of explaining like, okay, so in this scene, your character, you know that she's lying, and you're trying to get her to tell the truth, and so it's building up some emotion in you, and instead of just being like be mad no matter, like you said, like, because they said a lot of new directors do that. It's better to kind of try to get them to work it through on their own and kind of get to that space on their own so they can bring it out naturally and have kind of like an impulse to do it. So I thought that was interesting, especially because like in film school, it was probably a lot harder to figure everything out, right? With all the different aspects going on. But I thought that
What
was
about film
interesting
school?
what you said. Just that like it was probably like film school, it's a great place to like learn all that stuff, I'm sure, to kind of go through it and figure it all out.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you go to film school, you're gonna start you off with the basic lighting, intro to lighting, and then from there they had me in a class called directing the narrative, and the first half of that class is specifically you in front of the camera, like you're the one acting, you're the one doing the interviews, because they say like it's kind of hard to be a director. Well, it's not hard, but to be a director, you kind of have to have an understanding of what it's like to be an actor. So they put you in front of the camera as much as possible. And then the other half of the class, then that's when you do the actual production part, casting actors and then working with actors. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, like one of the things they said was a thing that most of them said that they feel like directors should do is take an acting course, just so they can kind of see where the actor's coming from, and it helps them communicate with them a little better too.
But like everything, it's just about like different people's different schools. Not every school is going to give you the same curriculum. Not every person is going to learn the same way. So, like,
but Jorge, you've had
film school isn't necessary for everyone.
You like to
Yeah, I was going to say, Jorge, you've been trying to talk for like 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, here's the thing. I started out as an actor. I had training as an actor, and then I turned into a director. Well, I didn't turn into a director. I became a director. But I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from theater directors actually is when you're directing actors, the best way to do it, to communicate something, is to, if you need them to do something, you need to direct via action verbs. Mm-hmm. If you tell somebody, you know what, I want you to be mad, then he's like, well, just like you said, everybody gets mad differently. So if you're saying, well, you're about to kill this girl, you want to kill her, but you can't because of this and this and this. So you want to kill her with your words. And you have to go into psychology, and you have to understand, you have to have a very big, deep understanding of what the characters want. If you come, that's why we were talking the other day about coming to a set, being unprepared. And if you come to a set and you have no understanding on the story or what the characters want or how they want to get it, you have to, you're gonna be lost. You're gonna not know, because then you're gonna be submerged in a sea of problems, and you're not gonna be able to focus on directing the whole thing. So if you tell the actors, well, imagine if you were driving this car at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And you have to communicate something to the person that's right next to you just before the crash. Then you're gonna make the actor speak faster, but not just because you told them to speak faster. It's because they have an urgency to speak faster. So you have to understand this in order to be able to ask from your actors to get some performance. And if you're seeing that it's not working, it's your job to communicate the same thing in a different way. You have to be creative enough, and you have to be articulate enough to be able to ask from your actors something else. So that, I think that's the biggest part. If you can use active verbs, you're basically on the other side.
And that was definitely something that they kept reiterating. Don't tell them, do it, say this, say that. explain, like you gave some really good examples of situations, feelings, like, oh, think about this when you feel like this. Like you
that's a big
explained it
one.
perfectly.
You never say feel. You don't direct in
Yeah.
feelings. You don't get mad. You're not sad. Be sadder.
Exactly.
Well, how can you get sadder? I mean, this is as sad as I can get without any motivation. So if you don't motivate
Exactly.
your
You did
actors,
a great job explaining the scenes. Like, okay, think about it this way. You're doing this, or this is happening, or blah, blah. Like, I was even gonna make a joke, like, with that feeling you're talking about, wanting to kill somebody, but not able to, but killing them with your words. Marriage teaches you how to do that, because sometimes you want to punch the arm through a window. You can't do that. So you just call them some bad words. That makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's true.
That's not good relationship advice.
No, I'm not talking about good relationships.
No,
well,
but
I'm not a therapist.
like
You
the
I'm a
wanting to kill
director.
someone
do
with
have
your words.
like the
You
director
wanting to kill
actor
someone with your
relationship,
words
so it
is
very,
not a good. It's not a good coping mechanism for wanting to murder them anyway. It's not a good coping mechanism, period. But it's like, oh, well, I want to kill them. I can't kill them. I'm just going to call them really bad things. Like, it's already toxic.
And then
But
what
I
happens is that
understand.
you incite you light the creativity in your actor, and you're giving them the chance to shine by themselves. So it's a win-win all the time.
Yeah, and we've all been in those situations. So you showing them something that's relatable, like, oh, you're trying to get something quick because there's a sense of urgency, or you feel really mad, but you can't physically show it, so you have to try to express it in words. Like, that's something that everyone's felt. So reaching into their day-to-day, their humanity, like me and Coda were talking about a scene in one of the videos that sucked. The poor man, the director, he unfortunately in one of the videos, he says, like, what he says makes sense, but when he tries to show you, you can clearly tell that he's learned all this stuff, but he's not implemented it. It's kind of like you're not self-aware to know that you're not doing what you're teaching. So yeah. So it's kind of like the girl was supposed to show basically she was going to go home and her husband was abusive, and she had to go quick because if she got home late, he was going to beat her. So she had to show, basically the line was something like, I really have somewhere to be. I don't remember what it was, but he was like, oh, you fight crime at night or something. And she said something like that. But she said something like that in the most monotone, weird, unfeeling way. Like, you're supposed to show that you're afraid, that you're insecure, that you're like, yeah, like, my husband's gonna beat me if I don't get home quick, like that kind of thing. And he was just telling her how to, instead of showing her like, okay, how, and me and Coda were debating, how would we do this differently? And the way that works for me, I don't know if that works for everyone, but the way that would work for me would be someone reminding me, okay, think about the moments where you've been scared and anxious and nervous. How did you feel? What did you do? Do you play with your fingers when you're nervous? Do you play with your hair? What do you do? What do other people that you know do when they're nervous? Like little body languages or emotional cues, like how do their eyes look? For me, that is really helpful because it makes me remember an actual moment, a situation that I've lived through, and that can help me relate. Okay, so instead of trying so freaking hard to be like 4 different emotions. So that's a really good example you gave, Jorge, of like getting their mindset there instead of being like, be mad, be sad, be this, be that, showing them real life examples and helping them relate to the character too. I feel like when you find that thing, I've heard a lot of actors say this, that when they find something that they can relate to with their characters, even the smallest thing, it helps them become the character more because they're not thinking so hard of having to be that thing. It's not that thing that's super far away. You found something you connect with that character in, even if you haven't lived it, but you understand it.
Yeah.
And it helps you dive into it more. Sarah's an actor, she was agreeing with me, so I must be saying something good. Okay, good.
I wanted to quickly just add something to that as well, is understanding how you naturally act in certain ways aware in the body. And then with different characters, you can start adding in like changing the slight differences and purposely slightly altering or changing. Say if you show anxious in a certain way for one character, you take another character and maybe show it in another way when you're building another character. That's just some things that you can kind of work on and add.
Yeah, slowly diving into that character, right into their mindset, their personality.
Yeah, so it's like how you would react isn't necessarily the same. You could build a whole character with their own backstory and then they might react differently, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, like a serial killer is not going to act the same as you, hopefully. So you shouldn't.
Oh, that was another example that he gave. That was, gosh, it was so terrible. That poor director. Like the script was terrible. His execution was terrible. I kind of felt bad. But basically, there was a serial killer and he was going around cutting people's wires so they could let him into their house because that makes sense. Like, why would, oh, is your power out? My power's out too. Oh, yeah, you want to come in? Like, huh? Anyway, I digress. So it made no freaking sense. I was like, what? Is he an electrician? Does he know how to fix? Like, okay, no, this makes no sense. Because he would like get invited in somehow because he knew that they were going to invite him in and then he'd kill him. I was like, okay.
I mean, yeah, like an actor can only do so much. It also depends on the script. But Brian, you've had your hand raised for a while.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna finish. Sorry, Brian. I was just gonna finish in the sense of what I mean to say by this is he was telling him to act like he's not supposed to act creepy. He's supposed to act normal because a serial killer isn't gonna let you know he's a serial killer. He isn't gonna act freaky as hell. He's gonna act like a normal person. Otherwise, you'd know he's a creep. You'd know not to let him in your house, like, you know, and I think he was overthinking it way too much, and you could see because he was like doing the eyes, you know, those crazy eyes. Like, dude, you're being a little too obvious right now. Like, I wouldn't let you in my house. But yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback on what Jorge said about using specific words like action words to kind of set the tone. For directors, like I like to try to avoid using command words. Like you gotta get there, you have to be mad, or you have to, you know, command words. So like in the military, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, in the military, when an officer walks into a room, the closest enlisted person has to see this and call the room to attention. He goes, room tension, hit, and then everybody stands up and they come to attention, and then whatever the officer has to say, he'll say it, or he'll just be like, as you were. So like, I remember being a DPing for this one shoot and looking at this actress in the camera, and she was just, you know, just calm and chill. And then the director calls action. And then like her butt puckered up a little bit and she kind of like went into attention like she was in the military. And I was like, oh, like, and that kind of like, you know, tainted
You're focusing on her butt, huh?
bit.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, like she just completely like went out of focus. Like, you know, she was in the zone and then, you know, action, and then it just changed everything. So like for me, I like to not use command words like action. I mean, you're going to have to at some point. Like if you're in a loud setting, you're going to have to yell it. But like if I'm in a quiet room, I'll just say, I like to use junbi, which is a Korean word for ready. So that way, you know, you say it, it's calm. And then,
what if they don't know Korean?
You let them. You let them know before you shoot. You let them know.
I know. I'm just being smart at this point.
They know, and I say junbi, and then that is the Korean word for ready. So whenever you're ready, you know, they can get ready to do the performance. But when you yell action, it's like they kind of like, it's like
tense up a bit.
Yeah, they tense up a bit. So I like to try to avoid that. I'll say junbi, and then I'll say hado at the end. You know, just to let them know.
Got it. You want to be bougie? No, I'm kidding.
You know, they say action and they say cut, and then like, you know, the actor is waiting for like the cut. You know, so I just like I don't like it to be so abrupt. You know what I mean? Cut, and then they just stop.
And some actors, I've actually heard it's the opposite. Like they will only turn on when they hear that action. and they will turn off when they hear the cut. Like I've heard some actors say that they need that in order to like leave the character and go back to like their regular state or something like that. So that's really interesting. Like
I think
those
it's
are
like,
different
it's like
approaches.
what they all say is just like it's a lot of trial and error, and that's why, you know, there's so many different takes on it, because everybody's going through different experiences and different people and different actors and different directors, and everybody has their own way of doing things. So that's why it's interesting to hear everybody's take on everything, because the way that Priscilla would go about doing it isn't going to be the same way that Brian or Jorge or even I would go about doing it. We might do it similarly, but we would probably have different little things like what Brian was just talking about with changing the words, because he's noticed that when he uses cut and action, you know, his actors tense up and they get a little more stiff and rigid, and they're not as.
It's about knowing your actors too. Yeah.
It's about knowing and learning from situations. So that's why a lot of like the big directors will do things a lot differently too. And I think the video Priscilla shared, that director said he was doing things a lot differently. I can't really remember exactly what he was saying, but it was
talking about multiple, how he would use multiple cuts in different ways.
Like, yeah, he would let them like take over, like let them do it their way, and then he would let them do it. He would do one where he's controlling it, and then he would do one where he lets them like do whatever you want, go crazy with it. Let's see what happens. Maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't, but at least it gives us.
Because he said that the biggest error for a director is having a set idea of exactly what he wants, because sometimes he can lose something from that. He can lose a performance that an actor could have done that would make the scene better. He can use a scene. He could have used a scene that would have matched better to the overall story. So don't be too fixated on that one thing that you want, that one shot, that one performance, and give the actor a little bit of freedom to try it. And that was his, because he said later in the editing room, you won't have much to work with if you only have that one shot or that two shots and it doesn't match the overall story. So his method was he would do that. He would give them a few more takes if he could and have options for the editing room.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's good to have both. So having like a clear vision and idea of kind of what you want, and then that leaves kind of like an outline, but then allowing like a kind of room. Maybe it's going to go outside of like that vision. Maybe it'll stay inside. It doesn't really matter. So having like a mixture, because that'll give you something to like work off of, and then be able to.
And the same way actors have their own methods, each director has their own method as well, is what we're discovering more and more.
Yeah. So one of the things was, if you can, do different variations of the scene, like we were just saying, so that you have more to work with in post. That's the note I got from him. And then there was also like somebody was saying, you know, like the actors shouldn't do it exactly the same every time either. Maybe they should give the line where they're saying like, "What do you mean?" And then they're saying like, "What do you mean?" You know, and they're like kind of changing it a little bit, just little variations of it. That way you have more to work with and it's more natural. That other,
like we said, it doesn't work with everybody, because sometimes you don't have time.
The pauses within the line changes. That's going to change how the other person responds, and then it's going to be more natural, and it's not going to seem like a line. Because they said a one really big issue they see with a lot of if you're working with new people, is they're kind of waiting to say their lines, and that just takes away the whole scene. Because if I'm waiting for Sarah to stop her line so that I can talk, I'm just kind of standing there waiting and listening and not really reacting to the conversation.
You're not feeding off of each other. You're not acting with each other.
And you're kind of just waiting for it to be over, and natural conversation isn't exactly like, "Hey, how are you?" And it's like there's not pauses like that. So it's
engaged.
And they said to do like as much rehearsal as you can. If you have time, do as much rehearsal as you can, so you can get through all that stuff with the actors.
And so you don't lose time either.
If they have ideas, they want to go through it in rehearsal so that you can kind of get those ideas out there. You can get the problems out of the way, and you can figure it all out before you get to set, because that's when it's going to be a lot of money and time and wasting everybody's time.
And more pressure on you too. So you'll have more time to relax, to know the script, to practice, and that kind of thing. Sarah, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah. 1 second, I was checking it out. Shoot. Fuck. I was saying when you're
Hey, no, I'm kidding.
sorry. It's gone. I lost it. Shoot.
Hi, Droga. Sorry, it's my fault.
I know, I
Shut
was
up.
like looking it out and then the distraction. Something about like staying engaged. So you will
Action. Go.
Tell you what, you think about it and we'll come back to it.
All right, I'm
Okay.
gonna move on with the notes I have
Okay.
down that I wanted to just discuss real quick, and if it comes back to you, let me know.
Yeah, a lot of this is stuff that we were gonna touch on in the notes, but you guys kind of beat us to the punch. So
Which is good.
You-
Like, it's exactly what we've
yeah.
been hearing, and it's good to hear it over and over again.
And
'cause
we're
it's
so
okay.
happy that we're all on the same
Stuff to
page
help
and we're learning together different methods. Like, it's awesome. Guys, every meeting I'm more and more happy at how many different perspectives we're getting, how much we're learning from each other. Like,
Yeah.
this is what a study group should be, and it makes me so excited, especially the newbies being able to give their feedback and what they're learning. And I think you know what I mean. The newbies are the ones that are shy and not talking. You know who you are. But I'm so happy to see you guys talking and expressing and giving your opinions and your point of view, because you guys could have something to teach us as well, you know, or some feedback or some questions that might be other people's questions. So it's really great. I'm really loving it. Just wanted to say that.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I love
agree. It is awesome. Sorry.
I
Oh,
love
good.
that. I love the idea of doing multiple ways in rehearsal,
Mhm.
and then maybe taking notes as a director for, you know, multiple ways you want to do it in shooting from what came out of the rehearsal. I think not only like doing it different ways for the actors, but maybe even different ways that the DP can shoot it versus creative pacing options, stuff like that.
Yeah. And also, guys, just a reminder that if you guys didn't have time to watch all the videos, or if you want to delve deeper into one subject, we have a playlist on the YouTube channel with all the videos. Some suck really bad because unfortunately we couldn't filter every single one of them. But it's good to learn critical thinking too. Okay, I don't agree with this. Okay, this is kind of crappy. Okay, he's saying one thing, doing another. I don't know if I trust this guy. And then you find out he's charging $500 for the rest of the course. Now I really don't trust this guy. That kind of thing.
But yeah, I agree with what Angel was saying. It's like the rehearsal time is the time to experiment and see what everyone's take is on it. There's different rehearsals. You have the table read, which can be just a dry read where they just read through the script, and then you go through it again and kind of discuss like different aspects of the characters and why is this happening and what is this line, and maybe cutting out lines and stuff like that.
It's a great time for you to discuss the script, the story, the character with your actors, as well as what we heard.
And for them
Instead
to
of trying so
discuss,
hard.
they're like, okay, why is she saying it like, and then if there's any problems with the character's motivations or their overall arc, that's the time to like kind of go through it and bring it up. And then you can have another table read where you're kind of like going through it more with like them in character a little bit. And so that way you can kind of see how they're going to go about reading those lines, and you can kind of see if it's going the right direction or if there's things that could be changed or any ideas that come up with that. And then you do like a acting rehearsal where you rehearse the scene all the way through, and you kind of see what's working, what isn't then, and that's experiment time as well to let them kind of take the character in different directions and see what you like the best. Like
Steven has a question, honey, when you're done with your thought. I just didn't want to skip him. Is that okay?
Yeah. And then they have like what's called blocking rehearsal or technical rehearsal, which is when you have like the stuff set up and you're kind of seeing how, well, actually the technical rehearsal would be like the last thing you do before you actually shoot. In a blocking rehearsal, you can do that beforehand where you, like she was saying, you can kind of figure out the camera movements. You might have a shot list, you might have a storyboard, but you still don't know exactly how you want to do it. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not. So you do a blocking rehearsal to set up the camera and see what actually does work, what doesn't with the camera movements. And then once you get into the set, technical rehearsal is like the last thing when everything's set up, everything's ready to go. You might want to do a technical rehearsal just to see like you're going to get this shot right. Okay, now we can actually shoot. But sometimes you just, like Brian said, actually, one of the videos was saying in their technical rehearsal, they went ahead and just shot because it was good enough. And then they got the scene without even needing to do it again in their rehearsal. But yeah, what was the question?
So just 1 second. Okay, going back. So V had a comment too, but Steven said, do any of you have tricks for getting an actor to shed a bad habit without destroying their ego? What do you mean by bad habit? Steven, can you give us an example?
You just mean like if they're not doing what you want them to?
I think
Like-
I know what the question is, like, so if somebody's doing, like, an actor is doing something that is like really like say moving around too much or something, how do you change that without completely crushing them?
Like a
again?
body language
Oh,
thing,
okay.
or like a little tick or something like that?
Yes, or whatever it is. Yeah, I was just using that as an example. I mean, it could be like even how they're delivering something, or right, but yeah,
Right.
Steven, is that what you meant? Just to be clear, you know?
yeah,
I mean, go ahead and explain it, and then if that's not what he means, I want to hear what
Yeah.
he has to say.
yeah, true.
Steven said, like squinting, being too over the top, pretty much anything.
Okay,
Using
yeah.
your hands too much. Brent gave the example, touching it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ah, see. Anyone have
think-
tips for that?
Some
I
of
think
it-
that go.
Oh, it's kind of some things like some things you're not gonna destroy somebody's ego. But then some things, like if it's like a sensitive thing, you will. So I guess if it's like something would probably offend them, then like let's say the actor is autistic or something, and they're doing something like, you would have to try to work around that. Like maybe try to incorporate that in your script, or try to just shoot around. Like if they're doing a certain action that I don't know. It's kind of
Yes,
hard.
I understand you. Some people with autism have certain tics, and those are like coping mechanisms sometimes when they're nervous,
Yeah,
or
but
just things that
something
happen
like
naturally.
squinting, and the thing is, this could also like hurt the performance as well. Because like if you go to somebody and you're like, hey man, like you keep doing this, or like squinting or something like that, then they're gonna try to focus more on not squinting rather than giving a good performance.
And it's gonna
So
look
like,
unnatural.
yeah.
What
like,
about going to
so
him like,
one
hey,
of the
I've
things-
noticed you do this, I've noticed you're doing this a lot. Would that be bad as well? Like, just like, oh, what is this for the character? Like, just explain to me what the purpose. Would that be bad or no?
I mean, like it really all depends on what it is. Like I'll give you an example. I had an actress that she kept playing with her hair. So my solution was just to cut all of her hair off. No, I'm joking. I didn't.
Oh,
Oh, that's bad.
No, but I just let her know. I was just like, hey, you're playing with your hair too much. If you don't mind toning it down. And she was like, oh, okay. And she did. But then like it became a problem. So her solution was to like just brush her hair to the back, so she couldn't play with it at all. So like maybe you can find a solution. Some things are like easy fix, but then some
Yeah,
things.
because some things you don't even notice. Sometimes it's just like a little tick, or something that someone does to, like when they're nervous or when they're trying to remember their lines. I've heard some
Mhm.
actors have like
I mean,
a
it's
little,
also like you need to know your actors too. Like that's what the whole rehearsing is for, to kind of get to know them, and then you can see if are they gonna be sensitive to that? Are they gonna be like kind of worried too much about their hair now? You know,
But at the same time, you also have to address certain things. Like I had one actor, and he had this lazy eye, and it was like his left eye was literally like gone. Like you didn't see any pupil or anything. So like I had to pull him to the side, and I was like, yo, dude, like, and he was like, yeah, I know. And he thanked me because like
dude,
if I didn't do that, like he would have been on camera looking crazy. So like, and his like when
I had a lazy eye. How dare you?
when he blinked,
I mean, I did,
but when he blinked, like it would correct itself. So like before every take, like I had to make sure that like his eye was straight. Otherwise, like his eye
But
would have
was
been
he
going.
trying? But was he trying to play like a regular?
No, that lazy eye had nothing to do with this character or anything. He wasn't doing the lazy eye on
Yeah,
purpose.
but like, why? What would that have made like that big of a difference if it appeared?
Yes.
Is what I mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was noticeable on camera. That was the
No,
thing.
yeah, I know that, but I'm saying like, would it have made a difference? I'm not trying to get defensive.
Okay.
It's just because I used to have an eye that used to be like to the I had surgery on it to fix it because it used to be like to the
I'm sure
right.
the actor wouldn't want it either. Like that's why he was
No,
saying.
no, I'm exactly. I'm just
That's why I
asking,
think
like,
it's
is
just
that
like,
something he's self-conscious about, or is that something that is just part of him? And like
No,
he's
he knew his eye was lazy. He knew it. He knew this. So like when I pulled him to the side, I used to let him know, like, hey, this is what it's looking like. And he's, oh, okay. And then he was like, oh, and he fixed it. Because I noticed it like midway through the production. Because like
gotcha.
I was just like, oh, his eye, like if it started
No, I
off
get
like that,
that. Like,
I probably would not have said anything. But because I was like, I don't think his eye was like that when we started.
gotcha.
Then I
Because
noticed,
I
I was like, well,
know that
why is his eye doing
my
that?
mom used to do this all the time whenever we would take pictures. Because of the flash, my eyes would automatically look up. It was really annoying because I have sensitivity to light. So all of my pictures, I'd look so much blinder than I am because it would like go super hot. Like my eyes would be like up and you could only see the white of my eyes. So my mom would constantly be like, Priscilla, careful not to roll your eyes. Priscilla, look straight. Priscilla, look at this. And we found a system to it. Like now, every time I take a picture, someone like shows me where their hand is, where I need to focus, and I focus and don't blink.
Yeah, and that's
my eye
literally
gets
what we
into
had to do. We had to develop a system. So like every time I had to make sure and just see, okay, his eye is straight. I'm not gonna. And if it ever like went out, in a different direction, then I would let blink a couple times, and then it would straighten itself out, and it would be okay.
Yeah.
But like if I hadn't done that, like it would have been, like a Forrest Whitaker type, thing, or the other guy that was in the Black Panther movie, and his eye was just like all the way to the left. You know what I mean? Which is, and you see how, and in a way, like he thanked me because like he didn't want that, because Forrest Whitaker gets a lot of flack for that. But that's Forrest Whitaker. That's part of his thing. He doesn't care. Like if you're cool with it,
I just don't understand it honestly, because it's like if you're giving a good performance, does it really matter what the other? I mean, I guess eyes are important for like expressions
eyes
and
are
whatever.
super important to like
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you're giving a good performance and one of the eyes is doing its job and the other one's a little weird, like,
I mean,
is that really that big of a
like,
difference?
no, yes.
It was a big
I don't know. I've just seen a lot of actors.
Like, especially if the actor doesn't want that. Like that's what he's saying.
No,
like,
exactly. If the actor doesn't want that, it's one thing. I'm just saying, like, giving, for example, people that give him flack for it, like if that's how his eye works and he's comfortable with that and he's a good actor and people hire him in spite of that.
He's not getting flack from the production standpoint. Like
No,
nobody.
I know. I'm just talking about
I'm
people.
just saying, like on social media, like you'll see memes pop up.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I'm like, well, he's a good actor, so what does it matter if his eyes? Like, I don't know, guys. I get defensive.
You're taking it personally. Anyway,
I'm not taking it personally. I'm just saying that you should.
Here's my take on the whole thing. The problem is, as a director, you have to be mindful of the experience, the ultimate experience that the audience is going to have. And if something out of nowhere pops up in the middle of a production, or in the middle of the film, it's going to be distracting, and you're going to take away from. Let me tell you a small story. When I was learning how to act in the theater, somebody said that if you drop something, you better pick it up, because if you drop something and that thing starts to roll or whatever, all the audience's eyes are going to be on the object that you just dropped, and it's rolling now, and you're going to lose every single part of their attention to the object. So the problem is, if you get something that's distracting, then forget it. Forget all the build up for a scene that you were making, everything like that. So if that's a new stimuli, so you have to be very mindful of that, of those types of things, especially if you're just they're popping out of nowhere. If for instance, Brian didn't have the precedent of this happening before, it is very important that he got to fix it, and hopefully and thankfully he fixed it respectfully. That's the whole point. If you have something that's going to be distracting for the audience, you have to address it right away, no matter what happens, and you have to do it, of course, as long as you take it respectfully. And talking about the ego with the actors, you're not going to break somebody's egos as long as you treat them with respect.
Yeah.
I think that's the key element of any production. If you treat everybody with respect and you demand that everybody addresses everybody with respect, I think that's one of the biggest challenges as a producer or as a director. You have to instill a respect environment for everybody in the production. No, you can't
I'm
just
sorry,
put
guys.
up with people.
Back to Steven's question.
Yeah. No, but I was just gonna say, I'm
one
sorry,
of the
guys. I
videos
didn't mean
actually
to
showed
sound.
what?
No, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to sound like, oh my gosh, I'm taking this personally, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just, I wanted to understand, because sometimes, you know, like he said, people on social media will give them flack, but they're good actors. And sometimes, like, I've seen blind actors do an amazing job. I've seen people with like disabilities who have like little things, and sometimes they can work around it. Sometimes they don't want to work around it. Sometimes the actor, like Brian said, wants to fix it. So there's like a difference between.
Well, there's also a difference in a lazy eye and being blind. Like a lazy eye, if that happens every so often, then like Jorge was saying, and Brian, when that happens in the scene, it's going to come out of nowhere and it's going to be distracting because that didn't happen in the last 2 scenes, maybe.
No, definitely. I know if it didn't happen in the last 2 scenes, that's what I was trying to understand. Like, oh, is that a thing that was like unfixable? Was that a thing that he wanted to fix because it wasn't in every scene? Once he explained it to me, I was like, oh, okay. I just wanted to understand it better. And I got a little irritated that people give the guy flack for it, even though he's a good actor. That irritated me. But I just wanted to understand it a little better. So sorry, guys. Honey, you can, we'll understand Steven's question. I wanted to ask Sarah and Brent, because they've been wanting to talk. And Brent was talking in the chat about how Sarah was telling him that he was touching his face a lot. And I wanted to ask him how his process was of breaking that habit.
No, he wasn't. He was saying that's a one thing that an actor might be doing.
No, yeah, but he was saying Sarah was telling him not to do it. And he was doing it a lot.
That what it was? Oh, all right.
Yeah, but I didn't want to talk. How you volunteering me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask because you were talking about it in the chat. I wanted to ask how you worked around that.
But like, I think.
Is that okay?
Jorge, yeah, it's okay. I'm just, come on, really, it's me you're talking to.
I know.
Like, a couple of you guys were mentioning, I can't remember if it's Jorge or Brian, about like trying to communicate to the actor not to do certain things in a I guess what he's saying, a not commanding way. But sometimes some people need that commanding way in order to get it. So it depends on who you're dealing with, because Sarah would say, Brent, watch your hands. But she said it so soft and elegantly, and it's like, okay. But when she was the third time, she's like, Brent, you need to stop using your hands in your face because it's distracting. I was like, oh shit. All right. Then I had to really think, because sometimes I was getting in my character.
It made you feel comfortable too. She didn't feel it judgmental or rude or.
No. But some people are different depending on, how you're dealing with them. If you have a relationship with them, you could be like, come on, like, be serious, like pay more attention to your hands. But for me to get out of that, it was that third time she said it in a stern way. That worked for me,
Yeah.
I work better under pressure. Some people, you can talk to them in a nice way and you'll get results communicating. But I'm like old school. Hey, I'm the guy, like what Brian was saying, with like action. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get in character. I need that,
Yeah, well, I said that, but
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that.
Right. And that's why I was saying, like, you need to kind of know who you're working. That's why rehearsal is so important, so you can kind of get to know them, get comfortable with them, because the actor's trusting the director to direct them. They're trusting them to bring out the best performance in them and work with them and collaborate so that they can do the best they can do, instead of taking it like, I guess that's as good as you can do. Okay, we're good.
Like Brian was saying, being in the military, when an officer come in and all those things. Some people work better under pressure and some don't,
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like what Steven was talking about, I feel like his question, I feel like it depends a lot, like Brent said, on the actor and on his dynamic. If he works better, like if you're just like no nonsense, if you explain it carefully, respectfully, like always respectfully, obviously, but like sometimes he'll need a softer approach and sometimes he'll need tough love. Like, hey dude, we're doing this. Try to
some of
Yeah,
the
like,
some of
because
the
like you
videos
guys
were
were
saying,
saying, on
oh, what?
set is a lot of time, you know, nobody wants to sit there on time and keep checking or correcting the actor. After a while, it gets frustrating because you got budget, time, money. Like, you know, sometimes this actor can only come in to shoot this day, and you're so working on this other actor to get his you know, his hands or body language in check. It can be very annoying.
what were you saying, hon?
Oh, I was just saying, like, yeah, some of the videos were talking about like when an actor is blocked, like they're just inside their head, they're thinking about it too much, and certain things you could do. That kind of goes along with the question is like one of the things they said that one of the directors said they just brought the actor to the side and they were like, hey, you know what? Let's go for a little 3-minute walk, you know? And then that got them like, what? Oh, okay. And then they got out of the set and they kind of calmed down and they stopped thinking
Right.
too much about it. And by the time they got back to set, they were all good and they were ready to go. And they got the scene done because they got out of that nervous overthinking moment.
V,
So it just depends. Like there's different ways, different tactics you can use to try to get people out of their heads or to get them to stop doing certain things. Or like you said, if they need it, you kind of just tell them bluntly, like, hey,
yeah.
cut that out.
I want to answer V
Some of
question.
the oh, go ahead.
I think Lakota mentioned that question you're asking about with the blocking and doing the rehearsal. That really helps with you know, working with props to help you get out of that, you know, using unnecessary gestures and things on camera when you actually work with the props, kind of like make it natural so you
Yeah.
don't do things unnatural in the scene where it's distracting, you know. Because you
Yeah,
know, you
V
ever
said,
watch a show where they're eating at a dinner table and it's like nobody's eating, they're just talking. I'm like, so nobody's gonna eat this food that's on this table. Like those are distracting to me when I'm watching
every
the
soap
film.
opera with the huge breakfast. I'm like, y'all ain't gonna
Right.
eat. What the
Like
heck?
nobody's eating, all they're doing is talking. I'm like, really? That's so fake. Nobody's munching out on anything.
Yeah.
Okay, for those who didn't read it, V said, I had a director suggest working with props while getting through the scene to help the lines flow and keep the fidgeting down, such as holding a shirt, folding a shirt or something. So that's what she was talking about that Brent was talking about, was referencing to. One thing that we also saw in a lot of the videos was they were different actors were saying different things, because one of the videos I sent you guys was actors talking about things that directors shouldn't do or things that they hate when they do the most. Really fun video. If you guys can, please watch it. I sent it through the WhatsApp.
I watched mine.
So good. And one of the things she was saying was like, one of the actors was like, oh, I like it when he just explains it calmly to me, you know, talks to me through it. And then the other was like, I like it when they're just joking around, like, hey, stop doing that, it's annoying, or whatever, like, or just make something funny. I think the example she gave was like, yeah, next time do it a little less terrible or something like that. And she laughed and she said that really like calmed her down or whatever. To some people that would make them even more nervous. So
yeah, it just always depends on the person and their individual take on it. And
like there was
that's
this
one of the things was they the director stuff they were saying, you are a like kind of like a coach and a tool. So you want to be a resource to the actor. So they like, what do you need from me? What do you want from me? Do you want me to explain this? Do you want me to do that? And kind of figure that out when you're in rehearsal and or just starting out with them to kind of build that relationship, figure out what they need from you, and then give them what they need as best you can. And there's always going to be little mistakes being made, especially when you're first starting out. And there's always going to be kind of that learning curve. And even each new person you work with, you're going to have that little bit of a learning curve to figure out how to really get that director-actor relationship working. Because what one actor does and understands, the next actor is not going to understand and do the exact same thing. So it's going to be different. And it's you have to approach it in a different way. And some people are going to be more sensitive and some people aren't. Some people can, like Brent, want it straight up. They want it blunt. And other people might want it a little more going around the facts so that they can kind of understand it without getting their feelings hurt or something like that. So it really depends on the individual. But sorry, Priscilla, were you going to say something?
No. I was just gonna make like talking about that scene we were watching about the again, that poor man, that director, and how there was a scene with a man in a car crying. Guys, it was so bad. It was like like with a face all crumpled up and crying terribly. And I was like, yeah, I feel like if I were a director, I'd just be blunt and I'd be like, yeah, next we'll do that again. Maybe don't look like you're pooping. Like the face, it looked like he was taking a dump, and it was so bad. And I just, for me, if someone made a joke, that would calm me down. And then Coda was like, "Oh, that could like get him more in his head, even more in his head, even more nervous." And I'd be like, "Yeah." For me, it would like, oh, sorry, like, I don't know. It would make me laugh, but also make me overthink it. I don't know.
But you don't know until you're
some
on
people are
set too.
different.
Like Brian was saying,
Exactly.
like the actor might get it like perfectly, and then when they call action or they actually start being in front of the camera, their whole way of doing it might change. So you don't know. It's kind of hard to know until you're actually on set, like how you would react to something, especially when you're in that vulnerable state. And it's why you can see why actors, why they're, you have to kind of understand where they're coming from, and that's why they said like maybe take an acting course if you want to be a director, because you kind of get that language of the actor and you kind of understand where they're coming from, why they're doing what they're doing, and you know what they're really putting out there, because it's a lot. It's vulnerability, and it's you know, they're putting themselves out there trying to get this role. And
yeah, like people say that actors are sensitive
and criticized the whole time, and so it's kind of like you gotta work with them on it.
People say that actors are sensitive, but think about it. You're being vulnerable. You're be in a very vulnerable emotional state. You're very raw. You're hearing constant feedback and criticism and like, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. Like, it is a very nerve-wracking, sensitive thing to be in. So
Angel asked,
understandable.
Where may we find the video advice?
Yeah, I texted her privately. Honey, did you give me her contact info? Because she's not in the WhatsApp.
Do you have the syllabus, by the way?
Yes, thank you. I'll join the WhatsApp. I think I'm just getting used to how you guys communicate, but I definitely appreciate all the resources. I really
find you.
Jorge's approach about the looking out for the viewer's experience and like really looking out for all these distractions, whether you use them or not. Because it made me really think about, you know, say well, for example, I was at a friend's birthday party, and say you get in a good conversation with someone, but you're also at a party, and then you kind of have to allow for the distractions that come up, you know?
Yeah.
Dancing, someone's laughing, allow it, and then get back to the conversation in order for your thought to be expressed. So I was kind of thinking of that, how that kind of all tie in with pacing.
Hey, yeah, I heard the question. But what do you mean by pacing?
Well, just, you know how you're doing the rehearsals and you're doing the different takes and you're trying to get a different feel with the actors and maybe with the crew also. So I was just like looking creatively at pacing options as well as a way to have a multiple take as well. So
oh yeah, we're definitely going to discuss pacing. We're just, like we said, we're all over the place because everyone's beating us to the punch. But Jorge, do you have any tips on pacing at all? Since she asked you.
But the thing is, I don't really get the pacing part, because I don't know if you're talking about rhythm or if you're talking about pacing like talking to a part of the crew or part of the scene.
I believe it might be the scene, right, Angel? Like pacing.
You're talking about like the actors, like the pacing in their lines and
right.
Oh, okay. So this, if that's the thing here, I believe that it's very important to, yes, you're gonna be talking to them and they're, especially let's say they have a party. You have a party going on, and there's gonna be a load of crap happening around the actors. So you're gonna have to tell them, well, this is what's gonna happen, and the background acting is normally done by somebody else in bigger sets, but when you're doing it yourself, you're gonna have to do it basically you're gonna be directing the background also. So if you're talking to them and they're doing the scene, what you have to do with what there's a lot of things going on is you have to again go back to your cinematographer and have him talk to the actors too, with well, I mean, talk with it's like the smallest circle that you're gonna have around, that you have to start building this stuff around, and there everybody's gonna talk to their departments, but you have to bring everybody to rehearse. And yes, there's a lot of things like in real life that are going to be happening at the same time, but it is very important that thinking back at directing the viewer's attention, we can't have somebody trying to talk and somebody like trying to make a noise behind them, and then everybody's like and you're trying to explain something, and then what's going to happen with the audience? You're going to lose them. So this is an environment that you're controlling. So if you tell them, you know, this is what's going to happen and blah blah blah. For instance, if you have a party going on, of course you're not going to have music playing in the background, because that's going to screw all the editing, and when you're like getting cuts, because it's going to be impossible. So you're going to have people dancing in the background to imaginary music, and then you're directing a scene that's going to happen, because you need to hear the dialogue between the actors, and you can't do that because the music would get in the mics, and then it would be a nightmare. You would have to ADR the whole thing. So I think if I don't know if I'm answering your question, Angela.
Oh,
It's Angel.
Angel.
Yeah, no worries. No, I was just relating this as an example into regular life, where you are trying to talk to people and just natural distractions happen in life. So I'm seeing the director's role as, okay, you know, how are we going to either look out for these distractions or use
how are you going to make them seem seamless and natural but not get in the way of the scene, is what you mean? Like, okay, it needs to seem like real life, but real life is all these distractions and a million things happening at once. So how do you do that without taking away from the performance?
True.
So
or how do you make, like weave it in like a dance? Like, yes, as a director, you're going to look out and try to minimize the distractions, but yes, how do you keep that a little natural, where you might use some of those distractions as, oh, this seems like a natural conversation between two people?
Okay, it comes down to the script and what you want to tell. Because if there's a distraction that needs to happen, that is going to move the story forward, then you're going to have to weave that into the scene. So imagine if we're having somebody that's at a party, and they're having a conversation, and this boy meets girl, and they start hitting it off, and they're liking each other, and then somebody suddenly in the back, one of the lights falls and explodes. Well, you have to have the takes depending on how much coverage you have. You don't have to have 20 angles of the same take, but you have to have some sort of coverage to basically cover your butt, and then have something that you're going to be able to use and post, you know. But unless you're going to be doing a long take where everything's just happening at the same moment, which was, for instance, I made a movie that was in a whole long take. And what I did was I rehearsed the thing for a month before I actually filmed it, because I was going to film it in one take, and I was also going to stream it live while I was making it. But I had to rehearse the whole thing, so everybody knew what was going to happen, and when a sound was going to sound in the background, and a lot of stuff. So unless you're doing something that's very, very long, you're going to just, you know what, stick to the script. And what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to communicate with the actors. As long as you know the direction of the scene, you can say, okay, this is what's going to happen. And right here, there's an explosion in the back and blah, 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 blah.
Don't let it distract you unless it's supposed to distract you in the script.
No, I mean, it has to distract you unless you're playing a deaf character or you're playing somebody and something explodes, then you're not, and even then, deaf people feel vibrations. So it's still gonna make you react to something. If you have an actor that doesn't react to the background falling or something happening in the back, then that's a problem, because
that's it.
They don't have
pretty much
enough
a dead
experience.
character.
Yeah, because in life, if you hear something exploding behind you, you will turn and see what the hell's exploding behind me.
Yeah.
So
You'll feel heat. You'll feel everything.
Exactly. So people need to react. They say acting is reacting, but it's not really. I wouldn't say that, but you still react to things that are happening in the environment. But still, coming back to the whole thing and the pacing, you take it step by step. You go and you direct actors the scene that has to have them. You work on the scene with the actors, and then you start weaving in the rest of the things, the explosion and the car crashing in the back. But you have to take it little by little and steps. If you grab it like a bite-sized piece of cake, then you're going to be able to build the whole cake. But it's little by little, scene by scene. You have to understand, and you have to think about, you have to edit a few videos in order to understand where you're going to be able to put the edits, and what do you need, how much do you need from one take in order to have the whole scene and be able to edit into something that's going to be able to convey a message in the future.
Yeah, pacing is a lot about it's editing, it's the acting, it's a bunch of different things, and we're going to discuss it more in the articles that we sent. We're going to discuss it when Coda finally gets to talk about the topics, actually.
No,
but
yeah,
but
like
Brian has his hand raised, and so does Brent.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Do you want
Brent, you had your hand up first. Go for it.
I agree with Jose. But it's Angel, right?
Jorge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jorge, sorry. Angel. So you're gonna learn different techniques. Everybody have their way of how they doing it. What might work with me might not work with Lakota. And as far as the techniques, where I'm not familiar, I don't have a lot of experience with film, stuff like that, but I did a lot of off-Broadway and stuff. So what we would do, they would do practice where a lot of noise around, and you would have to have a conversation with the other actor. And like if you're in a restaurant, it's gonna be noisy, people talking, like you guys were saying, it's gonna be distracting, right? We would practice
like
doing
that.
Like I was gonna say like that.
Yeah, like we would practice ignoring and drowning out my daughter's noise while we're having a conversation to stay in a character, right? So when we do that, it will
but
be
also
practice.
raising your voice to show that you're acknowledging it, because like it's still happening to you.
No, but it was a technique we would do. She would have 3 people try to talk to you at the same time, and you have to stay in character and speak to your main character, your co-actor, and try to stay in character and remember your lines with the distractions. Because even I drive the bus, and I'll be going through certain parts of Brooklyn, and they'll be on set, and I can see the camera and light, and the actor is walking, and be different sounds outside. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they drown some of the things out, but they were always training us to be able to.
Oh, you're talking about in your performance, not getting distracted by things around you.
Yes, in your performance, not get distracted by little things, because sometimes the boom might be coming down in your face, and you might look up at the boom to make sure, it's like, just try to stay in character. I mean,
I understood her question. I understood her question differently. I understood it more as like, how do you play like that scene authentically with all those, but I might have understood it wrong.
Well, that's part of the technique. You're playing, you know, if you have a scene where there's a lot of things going on, and you know you have a lot of moving parts, I'm imagining on a set, you got to be able to be in character with all these cameras, all these people. Yeah, they say quiet on set, but it's still like you guys were mentioning, a guy would do great in rehearsal, and when the camera comes on, it's like he's like nervous because you got lights, you got this person moving. There's gonna be people in your
Oh no,
view.
yeah, but I'm talking about like the way that I understood is she's talking about pacing in the sense of like in the scene, how do you make it seem natural? All the things that are supposed to be happening in real life, and still react to those things naturally, but not let it over. Like in real life, let's say you're in a party and there's all this music playing and you're having a conversation with someone. How would you pace that in a movie? What would you like? That's what I understood. So I'm like a little confused.
So if it is about pacing, then that is something that, like we were saying, that's up to the. Well, first of all, it's up to the script. Like once you write the script, you have that scene. You're gonna know what the overall pacing is for. You should know what the overall pacing should be for the movie and for each individual scene. Maybe a scene will have a little bit faster paced because it's more action heavy. Or
yeah, if it's an emotional scene, if it's a comedic scene, if it's a dramatic scene,
then they might have, then there might be faster paced. Otherwise, or a dramatic scene, it might be slower paced. It might, bring out some tension. There might be
the build up,
some unsaid things that are happening that you can see it in the actor's face, things like that. So the pacing would change depending on that. And it's good for that. Like that's what's good when you're in rehearsal, to allow the actor to choose different pacing different lines, so that you can kind of get a feel of which one's going to work best, especially for the scene and the overall scene. And when they're working back and forth with the other actor, they're reacting to what they're saying and how they're saying it. They're going to deliver their line differently, hopefully, so that they're not just set in one thing and it feels more natural. That was what they were talking about when they were saying, there was a thing that one of the videos talked about, Meisner repetition exercise for actors. I don't know if you guys have you heard of that, Sarah, Brent?
Repetition, yeah.
Basically, you sit across from another actor, and you're delivering the same line to each other. Like, I have to go to the bathroom, and then the other person says, you have to go to the bathroom, and then I have to go to the bathroom, and then you keep saying it differently, back and forth with each other, and then
you have to go to the washroom.
What?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Bathroom, restroom. But basically, you just go back and forth saying it differently, so you get the sense of pacing, and it changes the scene. Because if you're like, I have to go to the bathroom, it's a little more awkward. So then they should deliver their line like, you have to go to the bathroom, like it.
Yeah, awkwardly. They mimic your tone.
The tone, the pacing of like how long the pauses are between words and lines, and just like how quick.
It's just like the mirror exercise helps you with body language. When you're mirroring the other person, it helps you like mirror their body language. This exercise helps you mirror their tone and their pacing.
But so does Roberta.
Brian wanted to say something.
First year, I'm familiar with this exercise. Very helpful to get away from worrying about what to say and really focus on how you're feeling and really listening to the partner. And that's good because you want them to work off each other. It makes the scene more natural.
Yeah, it makes you focus more on playing off the character and on like interacting and reacting to his lines instead of focusing so hard on your lines and what you need to say and what you need to do. And it feels more natural from what I've seen. Brian, you had something to say? Brent, did you want to finish your thought, or did you just forget to turn off your hand?
No. Brian, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just gonna piggyback off of what Brent was saying to Angel about knowing what kind of actor you are. So like take my profile pic, for example. It's not a picture, it's actually a screenshot. So this was actually a project for my ALS class. So it's a class I take to promote to sergeant. So they made, because it's virtually online now, they make you go out and they make you give a presentation in front of a camera. So like when I was doing this outside, I noticed that every time a car went by, like I would have to stop because like I would just get distracted. And then I also noticed that like I used to think that I was more of a guy that can like, improvise, and just go off of, just I see a word and can just talk about it. But then I learned that I really need to write some stuff down. I need to, stick to a script. So you gotta have to ask yourself a question. It's like, how much do I need to rely on this script? And a script in screenwriting is usually for 1 page is 1 minute. So if you have 60 pages, that's 60 minutes. So you can recite the lines on 1 page. And then look, you can time yourself and say, well, I did this page and it was under a minute. So maybe I'm moving too fast, or maybe I'm moving too slow as far as pacing goes. But
I
you
feel
really
like
have,
that's complicated, isn't it? Because not
yeah,
every minute is necessarily, not every
yeah,
page is a minute,
a
roughly,
lot of
more or less.
some pages have actions in it, but like I'm talking just like in general dialogue. You're gonna run a
Oh,
minute.
like as a practice on, oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
like if you're trying to figure out, and then it's really up to the director on how fast or slow he wants you to go. But you have to ask yourself, like, a good way to exercise it is to do a lot. Take improv classes, because some actors can like they'll see the distraction will come and they'll hit them and they'll just roll right with it. Like the distraction will come. Like we'll have like when I'm shooting in a public space and people are walking by, and they're constantly, oh, you guys shooting a movie? And then some actors will just be like, yeah, we are, and not miss a beat and continue to go with the lines. And then some actors will have to stop. It'll just break them out of character. So like, I think it's good to exercise improv to help with the distractions. Cause
I feel like oh, sorry, go ahead.
Cause like when you're going to be put in places like in public places where people are constantly staring at you, pointing at you, taking pictures. So those are distractions as well. So like it's kind of good to get into that habit of being able to know it's coming and knowing how to handle it. If you're used to it, like some celebrities are used to like paparazzi and stuff, they can just go ahead and do it. But then if you're not used to that type of exposure, you're gonna be, you're gonna fall vulnerable to those distractions. So improv, I think, is a good way to get over those or help you with your pacing as far as like distractions.
I feel like it also, like, in my opinion, from what I've learned, for me, it would also help to know my character and know the script and know the story, because then you would kind of have an idea what's the genre, what's my character's personality. Because sometimes you can be in a drama, but that character is an anxious person, so his pacing would be a little faster than someone else's. So I feel like knowing your script, knowing your story, knowing your genre, knowing your character would also really help you understand how he would speak, how the pauses he would take, how those would sound, how he would move, even the body movement pacing, like that kind of thing. And also always talking to your director, like asking what do you like, what do you imagine for this scene? What do you and get feedback off of him, but also try to, the more you practice, the more you know your character, trust your instincts sometimes and be like, okay, I feel like I know my character, I've studied him back, I'm going to try to do the way I think this character would do it. And if you've studied, if you've learned, you can get that pacing down without having to overthink it, without having to worry about it. Like, that's just my opinion. And apparently they agree with me, so I must be saying something good. So that's good. Yay.
No cricket
Yeah,
sounds
so
good.
one of the main things that the videos are all saying is just like, if you're the director, you should know your script inside and out, because you need to know what's being said. You need to know where the characters are coming from. You kind of need to know the backstory of them, and you need to know, or you can work that out with the actors, but you need to like create a backstory. Why is this happening? Why are they acting like this? There's probably something going on that it's
The
not
character sheet we have in the first semester will help a lot. If you don't have that, if you want it, we can send it to you.
And it's just like they said, be specific with different aspects of the character. Like, what are they looking for in life? What are their goals? What are they afraid of? And just give like overall, be specific with character traits, but don't be specific with emotion, like what emotion they should have. That way they know, like, if, like what Priscilla said, if they're an anxious person, why are they anxious? What happened in their life to make them anxious? Maybe they had, a parent that was always condescending and making them feel like they're never doing anything right. So they're always kind of afraid of messing up.
And if that's not all in your script, learn to read between the lines, learn to study your character, because sometimes all that information won't be in the script, but you can read between the lines.
Oftentimes the background is going to be out of the script, and that's what leads to what the character is, that what we see in the film. And then you also need to know subtext, what's being said without actually being said, like what do they mean by what they're saying, and then context, like what's happening in the scene. So for you to be like, when you're the director, you need to know all that stuff so that when the actor comes to you and asks any kind of question of like, why do you think my character would react this way, you can kind of explain it to them or give them a general idea of why that character might do this thing. Or you can work with them and come up with some answers, because maybe you don't know, but at least it opens that question up to figure out an answer to, okay, let's figure out why your character's doing this. Why do you think they're doing it? And then it gets the actor thinking about it too. So there's different ways to go about it, but basically you need to know your script at least inside and out, and then you can work on all the other stuff, whether you want to do it with the actors beforehand or however you want to go about doing it. Because usually the actor is going to take over the character when they actually do it. They're not going to do it exactly. That's another thing I wanted to get to, and then I'll get to you, Stephen, and let you do your question.
Yeah, I was going to say. And also, Sarah, if you're doing an improv night, I want to join. I just watch. I want to just enjoy this. It sounds like it'll be so much fun to watch. Like, please let me in.
Okay.
Brent's not here, so like, don't tell him. I'll just be there, and like, Priscilla, what are you doing? Ha! I'm in. Screw you. Like, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Okay, but one other thing I wanted to say that they were all saying is, don't get set in one specific way unless it's crucial to the story. Don't get set to one specific way of the scene. You're gonna have a way, especially if you're the writer, you're gonna have a way that you feel like the scene should be played out. But when you have actors come on and take those roles, they're gonna have their own take on it, and so it doesn't mean it's bad. So be open to doing new ideas, be open to new ways of the scene happening, because
as a director, especially too, like, listen to your actors. If they feel like they know this character and they have an opinion about how they would act or how they would react or a line, hear them out, because they've been studying this.
Know more than, because they're delving so deep into that character, they oftentimes will know more than what the director would even think, because the director sees the overall picture, and that's what they need to look out for. Like Jorge was saying, I think, and Brian, they're looking at the overall picture, so they need to know pacing and everything for the overall scene and the overall movie. And the actor is looking more towards what their character, what is their character doing in that moment? What is their character doing in that scene? And how are they feeling? So they're more into the character than the director's going to be, and they're going to have a different take on it because of that.
Which you want, to be honest, like if everyone did it exactly that, like, yes, the director is important and they're the leader, obviously, but if
it's a team effort,
add to it, you know what I mean?
You need each other,
yeah, definitely. Like you want them to, you want that take on it, because it's going to feel more real too. You want them to.
You can have a good director and sorry.
Okay, what?
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, you could have the same role given to two different actors, and they're going to act it differently. If you look at any audition tapes from any like movies, you're going to see the actor comes in. Most of those auditions aren't the same. They have their own little take and their own little things that they do to bring that character to life. And then, eventually they settle on one of them. But there's different ways that you can go about doing the same exact character. And that's what makes characters unique and different. Even if it's like, oh, this is that angry dad. We've seen that. But then the actor is going to bring something specific to it to make it that character.
Each character will, each actor.
Guy, this is, I don't remember his name, but the guy from Stranger Things, Harkham, something like that. He's just like, oh, he's an angry guy. Like we've seen that before, but he brings his own take to it. So it makes it an interesting
Hopper. You mean the cop that supposedly is dead at the end of season 3?
Hey!
Spoiler.
Sorry.
We're blocking you.
But yeah.
Sorry. I can't wait for season 4.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, no.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, I thought that everyone's seen the season 3 by now. It's my bad.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, but no.
I've
All
only
right, then
seen.
I better shut up.
Yeah. Shut up. No, I'm kidding.
No, like you can talk, but just spoiler territory. Like everyone needs to be careful with that.
People get really, really pissed about that. Dude, you don't want to go there.
Steven, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah.
You have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just had a comment. I took something a little bit different away from what Angel had said earlier. To me, it wasn't really even a question. It was more of like a comment that she was making about what Jorge had brought up.
Well, she was asking Jorge, so she like wanted his perspective. So I understood it to be a question.
I disagree. I'm just going to tell you why real quick.
Okay.
So what I got from it, I could be wrong, and it's kind of driving me crazy. I want to know if I'm wrong.
Okay.
What I got from it is that when Jorge brought up that his job was to think about the viewer and their experience, and that she was drawing kind of like an illustration or a parallel to a thought she had about having conversations at parties, and how you have to like find your spaces in between, and it being similar to what the director is doing and finding the pacing and making sure nothing messes up the actual pacing of what you're trying to have the viewer experience. So I just kind of wanted to say that because it will drive me crazy if I don't. I'm not trying to be confrontational or anything. I'm just curious if I was right.
No, it's fair. I was confused about it too. I was going to ask, like, what did you mean by it? Because I feel like a lot of people understood different things. Like, I understood one thing, Jorge understood another, Brian understood, I think, a little bit of both. So, like, I think we, like in everything, we hear, like, this is just human. We hear something and we interpret it in different ways depending on where our mind's at. So, Angel, who was right? Were we all right a little bit? What was going on? What were you trying to ask?
In a way, you were all right in a little bit. But yes, definitely the last comment was a little bit where I was coming from. I'm just kind of trying to weave it all together for myself and kind of see how the director, would look at those situations. But then again, the exercise that Brian mentioned was helpful. The other comments that Jorge said was helpful. What you said was helpful. So yeah, I appreciate learning from everyone. But it was definitely, for me, a way to really kind of take the natural, we were talking about the natural, like method acting per se, like just take the natural situations of life and apply that to directing, and how to look at a scene as like the natural beats and pulses and things to wait for, so that people can hear you and feel what you're saying and where you're coming from. So I felt like even all the conversation that came from it was really helpful though.
Gotcha. So we all overthought it way too much, but it's good that Stephen, you were right. Pat yourself on the back, sir. You're done.
No,
we overthought it, but good things came from it.
Like
that's
a good way to go about it.
I overthink everything. So like, that's just, hey.
No, but I think it's good to like analyze stuff and go into like that conversation. I really liked, and I like just hearing everyone's take on it and different ways of going about doing the same thing.
Yeah, you wanted to finish something, Angel?
Yes, even the point you brought up about how to keep that, how to keep the distractions natural, or just it's kind of like the finer points of how to bring that into how to keep it natural in a scene. I felt like I really like that because I feel like sometimes we're trying to a little backstory on some of my experience. Started making at the beginning of my film short for a contest called Women Making a Scene. But before I did that, I did it as a musical. And so when you did it as a musical, you're directing theater, but it's literally like you do all that experience, that preparation, but it's almost like when you prepare everyone, when they get on stage, it just becomes what it becomes, you know. It's very real, natural life, like life. And I like that aspect of theater. I want to kind of bring that into how I make a film.
Gotcha.
Like bringing that approach to it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually what
I feel like you do let yourself have more fun in theater, right? Because you're thinking less about the camera or whatever. You're just in the.
Not necessarily.
For some theater actors, I've heard that it's easier for them than in film. And not necessarily easier, but just like simpler because there's less to think about. There's less to overthink. Like you have the audience there, but it's like you have all of those people with you.
You also can't take it again. So I don't know. I feel like it's a different.
It's different.
Beast.
Yeah, I feel like they're two different things. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I've heard both sides. Like, oh, I think acting is easier. Oh, I think movies are easier. I think theater is easier. Like everyone has their safe space and the place where they feel the most comfortable in, and where they feel like they can just express themselves best. You know, I feel like it varies very much on the person.
Well, I definitely like the approach of how to make filming a little more natural. And then speaking to your point a lot earlier, I actually like the approach too of doing, as someone learning, doing mini productions with your team to not only learn how you can work together and collaborate, but also how to really dive into, the subtext between actors on a scene. I think that could be a really learning space.
Yeah, we get comfortable. We do a horrible job by doing other jobs that aren't good for us. Like the idea we had is like in the future, everyone, if we have time, we would do like little mini productions and everyone would do like a different job in each one in little mini productions. So like,
Sarah came up with the idea.
Sarah came up with the idea, was brilliant. We were like, we're taking that for us, taking all the credit. No, I'm kidding. But we just thought it was awesome, even though like I'm still begging Coda to not let me do anything but the manager stuff. Like, dude, you don't want me breaking people's equipment. I doubt people will trust me around their stuff. Like, I'm not as blind as like most people would think, but I've already said this a million times. But I would still be super self-conscious and afraid on a set. And he's like, no, you need to try everything too. And I'm like, okay, well, let's put that to a vote.
No, I mean, I think like when we do that, that's like that's separate from the short films.
That's a whole.
Sarah's idea was to do everybody kind of do a different job, and I thought, maybe around the end of this whole entire thing, which is be like, I don't know, like 6 semesters in. After that, we could do like mini productions where it's like 30-second to a minute scripts, and everyone.
And that's where the screenwriting group comes in. People, we're gonna have to work our butts off.
Yep. Everyone has a different role, and like maybe everyone chooses 3 to 5 different jobs they'd want to do, and then we figure out like, okay, you want to do directing, and then you want to act in the next one, and then you're gonna do that, and it would be a really big challenge, and it'd be interesting to try to do, but I feel like it would give everybody like that open space to try every job and see what they like and see what they don't like. So thought that'd be cool.
And also see what you can handle, because there are some jobs that sound fun but are stressful as hell and maybe not matching your personality. You don't know. There's some like, oh, I think I'd be good at this. Whoa, never mind, too much. And then this one's like, oh wow, I didn't know this was this fun. Cool.
Yeah.
So
anyway, does anybody have any questions, comments with directing actors, or I'll just get back to the notes.
When is that challenge gonna happen?
So we're on our 2nd semester, and it'd probably be at the end of 2022. Wait.
Yeah, because we've organized the semesters into like 2 years worth. And so like we had our first semester, and now we're in our second
Like we're
one.
planning to do short films later in
Yeah, next semester.
but then those mini production thing, that'll happen like around the end or something.
That'll be just like a end of class project / test for all of you.
You know,
see if you've really learned.
Be pretty cool for you guys to do is when I was in film, my film school had film festivals, its own festival every year, and they literally took you step by step in the filmmaking process. So like you had to, in order to get approved to be in the festival altogether, you had to meet. They had like a panel of all the professors that were in the film program, and you had to go in front of a panel and you had to pitch them your idea. And even though like I knew all the professors up there, but they, you know, they acted like they didn't know me, and they were very, very critical of like everything I said. But you would go, you would pitch your idea, and they would green light it from there. Then from there you would write the script, and then they would see the first draft. They would give you the critiques on there, and then you will go to your final draft, and then they'll green light it again, and then you go out and shoot it step by step. But I think it would be cool, like if you guys for your first assignment would to be like pitching your idea and getting funding for your little short projects that you're doing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So you can get that experience, because like that's the one thing, like you guys are talking about like shooting your own films, but like nobody's really discussing where the money's going to come from. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure you guys are assuming, like I'm pretty sure you guys are like, oh, we're going to pitch in and put all this money in together, which is cool.
Honey,
exactly.
you don't
The way I was
know
looking
me.
at it was if it's my production, I'll try to put up the money for it, or I'll try to find funding, like you said.
Yeah, like the first
We're gonna go into budgeting and financing later on in the semester, in one of the semesters.
Yeah. Like I am the most anal person ever. So like not the most, but like I'm up there. So like me and Coda especially, Coda is like super thinking ahead and everything. So we are thinking like 20 steps ahead, and we are thinking money already. We're already thinking budgets. If anyone wants to contribute, that'd be awesome. But like if we're like seriously awesome, I'll send you my Venmo. No, but yeah. Just regardless, you know, I need cash. No, but like when we do, if we're going to take on the responsibility to go to these places and you take these people's times, we will have it organized by then. You know, we'll have like a system. We won't be like, okay, guys, you want to chip in over here? No, we already have that. Like, we're going to discuss it.
We're like saving up already for it,
But yeah.
So.
And in the future, we do hope
that trying to find funding is definitely going to be something we're going to go over. And
and like we said, we have people, and we have people all over. So we're definitely also going to have like in the future separating into small groups and be like, okay, guys, this semester, West Coasters, y'all get together and do this. East Coasters, y'all get together and do this. We'll try to be a little bit in each part and meet up with you guys both and see what you're working on. And that'll be fun as well. Like, we have some plans. We're not giving everything because we don't want to get you guys too like overly thinking about it, because then you won't be focusing on actually learning. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Getting crianza, just like little kids. But because I'm like that too, so I can't. But yeah, so we're trying to do it one day at a time, pace ourselves, and be ready, because there's no use in us wanting to get together and we don't have money, we don't have equipment, we don't have knowledge, we don't have anything. We're just like, let's just do it. No. We're learning, we're growing, and we're going to do this one step at a time. We have some cool ideas that we'll reveal to you in due time.
Well, I find like, to be honest, like with the 30-second to a minute, like type short, so like anything under 5 minutes, if everyone has like a small piece of equipment, you could do a lot with a little, right? And I think that's almost like a bit of the challenge there as well, is like how much can you do with good lighting, and it almost would make your technique have to be so on point, right? Because you're not able to just magically make it kind of look good, so you actually have to work it a little bit.
We also have to see like what we'll need, what we won't need.
Like we're still working it out, like how it would go about doing it, but like the way to do it most economically would be to get one location or film at somebody's place and use that same location for different scenes, different takes or whatever it is. And then because it's like 30 seconds to a minute, it's
That would be how
not
the
really to
mini
like tell
shorts
the whole
would be.
story. It's just kind of to get everybody used to the whole, the entire process
Of being on a crew, being on a set, that kind of thing.
It's kind of fun.
But that's
And-
much later on. I wasn't even going to touch on that, but
You mentioned it a little bit in one of the things, so I thought it was fair game.
it's all right. No, I
No,
just
no,
I don't
you
wanna touch
mentioned
on
it
things
first.
too far in the future.
Guys,
I don't wanna be
you're
focused
here.
on them now.
He mentioned it first.
I'm
Just
not
saying.
getting into this mess.
Yeah, honey.
I'm just saying. You can continue now.
But anyway, back to directing actors again. They like one of the notes I have also is that sometimes the director for actors, sometimes the director is going to want multiple takes, and it's not because the performance was bad. It just means that they want more options or something technical didn't work. Maybe the camera focus, something like that. So they just said like, just be aware of when you're on set, they're not going to always be perfect takes. And even if you do the best performance you can, they're not, they might want another take just because. So
Try not to take it personally, basically. And I wish Brent was here.
and don't think,
'Cause we were talking
yeah,
about
I was
that.
trying to get that head to Brent, but anyway,
Dang it. I'll tell him in private tomorrow.
he said he'll watch the recording, but
Oh, cool.
but yeah, just really
Trying to
don't
get us
take it into your head and think, oh my gosh, I must be doing something wrong, because that is supposed to be up to the director to actually approach you and talk to you about it and to go about, different ways, different techniques to get you to do the best performance you can. So if they're not really saying anything to you, which is also why Brian was saying like it's good to tell them good job, because then they know, oh, I am doing good, you're just doing another take, got it, instead of just being silent. So it's always good to give feedback. Whether
What did I do wrong? Why are you taking another take?
Yeah, you just like,
Yeah.
you could be like professional all the time, but as human beings, occasionally, you just filter back and you just have like a weird anxious moment or a moment where you go back, or like earlier, it's pretty human to be triggered or to be to hit your ego a little bit. I think the professionalism is how you deal with that. If you could just brush it off, you're like, oh, and then you're like, okay.
Yeah, and just like any work, like it's good to get feedback so you're not overthinking and wondering if you're doing a good job or not,
Yeah. So it's all like there's going to be a lot of ego, not just from actors, but from all the different people are going to be having ego. So it's always good to have everybody be, a little more humble and have a little more humility, because there's so many different people working on this thing that it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the best thing in this thing. I'm going to get these perfect shots if you're the camera operator or the director of photography or something. So there's a lot
also
of ego
everyone relies on everyone
director can
else.
have a big ego, actors can have a big ego, cinematographer, whoever, everybody can have a big ego. So it's always good to really humble yourself and not think you're above anyone else. And
remember, you're a part of a bigger machine. Like every little piece is needed to function perfectly. So like, yes, you're important and you're essential, but so is everybody else there.
You're just a cog.
Yep. No matter what position you have, everything is important. So like,
yeah,
I hate it when some videos and stuff make it seem like there's only 3 main jobs and the rest are down here. Like, yeah, I get it. It's called above the line and below the line, but really it's everybody's essential to the whole project. So
yeah, even the PAs, the people oh, I'd hate to be a PA. That makes me so mad whenever someone's like, oh, if you don't want to be a PA, gosh, it makes me so mad, because it's like PAs are super important too.
Yeah.
They do a super important job and you need them too. Otherwise, you could do a movie without them, but you can't, can you? So it's just like, you can, but you'd need a bunch of stuff and there wouldn't be you'd have to take away from someone else's job to go do that thing. So yeah, that always frustrates me when people have that attitude of like, I don't want to do this job or I don't want to do that job. It's one thing to know I wouldn't be good at a certain job, or I don't think I would qualify for that job or whatever, but it's completely different to think that that's beneath you.
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily, it could be sometimes it's a weird thing where you think somebody's just coming off as egocentric. Like I don't want to do, egotistic, sorry. Like I don't want to do that job's beneath me, but perhaps sometimes occasionally there are actual weird things going on.
I thought that was a new kink or something. Ego central. Okay.
I get the word, yeah,
No, I'm just messing
right,
with
like, it
because
could be
Brent doesn't.
something else too. So it can, the brain is a weird thing.
Yes, yes. Anyway, honey, you want to continue?
All right. So another note I have, this is more, well, actually, this is for all actors. So let the actors know how they have to move or how much they can move within the frame, especially if it's a specific shot. Then they need to know, like, can I back up like this? How much move do I have before I'm out of focus? Or like if they have certain marks they have to hit where it's like it's very specific camera movement, you're gonna have to show them exactly how to move and rehearse that so that they know, they make the line and the movement seem believable.
Because when you're in character,
that's
you
why,
might move
like,
around.
that's one reason why she was saying that sometimes theater actors or people who come from theater to film say it's easier to be in theater. That would be one of them because they don't have as much what's called blocking, which is where they need to be and when, because certain shots in professional film sets or bigger budgeted indie films or something like that have certain ways they want to move the camera, and the actor needs to be in the right place at the right time for that camera to be keeping up with them. So
you feel kind of trapped to that space, like you can't really move around a lot. And sometimes the character will want to, like depending on how you play a character, he'll have certain movements or personality traits, or he'll just want to move around, and then he'll have to remember, oh wait, I have to stay in this.
But that's also why there's usually a blocking rehearsal if there's going to be a scene like that, because they want to see how the actor's going to move. And then they try to base their camera movement off the actor most of the time. Sometimes it can't be done, but usually they try to base it off of what the actor's doing so that the actor can feel more natural. And then they get the shot like that. But certain times, depending on the location and, certain limitations, they have to do it a certain way, and the actor just kind of has to do it. And that's really challenging sometimes for an actor. One of the tips that I really liked and that I saw when I was a production assistant was the director would match the energy of the scene with like Brian was kind of talking about this, but they would still say action, but if it was like a serious dramatic scene that's really quiet and monotone, they would like whisper action. And then if it's like a really action heavy, heartbeat, maybe a chase scene, they'd get their energy up and they'd be like, oh, action! And then they'd get everybody, excited and match that action so that the scene is a little more,
to not get them out of that moment.
It doesn't have to be like a snap on, snap off. It's more like it's already there. The energy's already there. So it's easy to snap into it. I thought that was a really interesting tip. And I like that a lot because I feel like that does help. And you want to get the same thing with like getting the set ready. When it's a dramatic scene, you don't want your crew to be making jokes over here while the actor has to do a really serious, sad scene, because that's going to get him out of it maybe. So you want to kind of set the whole room to that kind of.
You also have to help him out. Like he can't be expected to like do everything.
You're gonna pull a Christian Bale if that happens.
Call action when it's a war movie. Thank you.
I was gonna say, we can always get my mother on the phone. Coda always thinks that when we're on a call, she's fighting with me because her voice is so freaking loud. I'm sure she'd be amazing at yelling action.
And if it's a serious quiet scene, she might not. So
yeah, no.
But I think Brian would probably be really good at that. Being in the military and all, I'm sure he's heard plenty of yelling.
Yeah, I don't.
All he has to do is come in uniform.
Yeah.
And so,
but you don't even call action if it's like a really intense scene. What, you still do the word you use?
I'll only call action if it's like I need to yell it, because you can't be soft with like shouldn't be. You can't say that. So like I'll just say action really loud. But for the most part, I just won't go about, because you do a lot of, I don't know. It gets loud. It gets loud sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Question for you, actually. I'm curious, like, do you have somebody call out for camera and sound? Because wouldn't that kind of get them in that same nervous feeling? Like if they're hearing camera, sound, slate,
Yeah, because wouldn't
know
you
that
have
there's
to
gonna be
get
action,
everyone
so
else?
wouldn't that kind of get him in the same feeling, like the same?
Well, normally they yell their own, like I'll call for
Rolling.
sound. You'll say speed or rolling. Camera will
Yep.
say speed or rolling, and then I'll tell everybody. I say settle. I won't just call it right. I'll say settle and wait like a good 5 seconds, and then I'll just call it. You know.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
For myself, I see whenever I call action, and then I count down from 5 or I count down from 3, and I just do the last one is silent and just point at them, and that's when they usually basically will act and stuff. That's what I've been doing recently, at least.
Cool. Yeah, see, and I like how like you can hear everybody has a different way of doing it, and I like that because it just
Now-
shows what we're doing.
Jorge, do you have a different approach? Or you just call action? How you do?
No, I just call the AD to call the pictures up. They roll. They
Because you
roll
seem like a
sound
very
and
calm
pictures.
fellow.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah, I
imagine
just-
you.
You know, it depends. It depends. I since I have a background in acting, when the scene needs to be high energy, I build up the energy with my actors, and then I call the pictures up, and I get the adrenaline going.
Because you seem so mellow. I can't imagine you mad.
You shouldn't see my acting career. I used to be the bad guy. So because yeah, it's the contrast of my personality with how I'm not. That's the beautiful part of acting.
Yeah, I
You
have heard
can
that
be
some
whoever
actors
you're
like to
not.
play the opposite of their personality because that's more challenging and fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and it's so much fun being the bad guy. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. I always used to think the bad guys are more interesting anyway.
Yeah, the fun parts to play for sure. I like playing them. You know what though?
Evil.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like you could find joy in almost any characters, which kind of makes like it fun. And I guess like the challenge with like playing a bad guy is finding the likable
And not being
portions of the
overly evil.
Well,
That's
it's
really
like
annoying. That's really annoying.
right? That's what they say in like classes and stuff. Is like if you're playing somebody who is hard to like, you have to find that in there to really draw the audience in, and then that's what creates a really dynamic acting character. And same thing for like playing like say a really good character. If you add in just a weird like something that's just a little bit off or like a bit of a quirk or something, even it's just like sometimes even the nicest character, just very minor, can be very subtle. It'll just add depth and make it more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
playing a
I find
dick
it
is
interesting to
fun.
play like characters that aren't like me. Like whenever I did like a little bit of plays and stuff, like just carriage plays and stuff. But it was always fun to play a character that wasn't like me. Like if it was someone who, like Robert said, was like really sarcastic. It was fun because I'm not as sarcastic as like the character I would play, or somebody who was very rude or obnoxious and stuff like that. I like playing like the different characters just to have a different.
No, that was an issue in our relationship because he actually came up to me and said, "You're too sarcastic" in the beginning, and he thought that like it bordered on rude sometimes, and I didn't know. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Because it's like a dry sarcasm.
Yeah.
You can't really tell unless you know her, but she's gotten a little different at it now.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I would love to play a Dr. Cox. If anyone's seen Scrubs, my favorite. I love him so much. Or some
Best
character
character.
that's like a total sarcastic a-hole, but also with a heart of gold. Because that's how I would love to be if I could get away with it.
I like Dr. Kelso too, though. I feel like he would be fun to play too.
Yes.
But
I'd love to be a super sarcastic, dry person. I can't get away with it because I care too much, and also like I hate hurting people's feelings. But I have that side of me, and I would just love to let it out. That's just
little dick.
Exactly. It's so much fun.
Yeah. But anyway, does anybody have any? Wait. So there's another note I had for. Actually, there's one more note. Well, this one has to do with pacing, but when we were watching like the pacing videos and reading through the websites, we kind of saw that storyboards can really help a lot with pacing. You can kind of get the sense of how long a scene's going to take and how many shots you're going to need from the storyboard. So especially if you have like action scenes or a fight scene, you really want to storyboard that out to see all the different takes you're going to need and how long everything's going to be and like how
Oh yeah, this
fluid
also
it
made
is,
us.
because it's kind of like a mini comic book story that goes through and shows you what the story's going to be like. So,
Yeah, I also saw that. Sorry, honey.
Oh, you're
Didn't
good.
mean to-
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I actually understood a lot more like when storyboarding would be like really useful, because I feel like, in my perspective, like action scenes, I feel like would be really useful to have a storyboard for me personally, just so we could get an idea of how it's supposed to be and stuff.
Yeah. I'm looking through my notes again. Does anybody have any questions or comments about directing actors, or from the opposite side, working with the director but as an actor?
Oh yeah, Jorge, do you
We
have
haven't
any experience
discussed
with
it.
like
Something like that.
really like working with directors as an actor? What you learned, the things that you took with you, the things that you were like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, a lot of people, I would find some directors that actually wanted me to be yellow, and it's like,
Yellow?
What do you mean? Yeah, exactly. When a director tells you, I want the performance to be yellow, it's like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean yellow? That's completely unclear to the actor, and the problem is most of the directors. We can talk about this. I could go on for a long time talking.
Guys,
about my
please watch the
experience.
video I sent you. This is exactly what Jorge is saying. The video that the actors were talking about what actors hate that directors do. Please watch it. It's exactly what Jorge is saying. It's so much fun. Continue.
So it is very, very. You'll find a lot of people that have no idea what they're doing, and they will yell at you as an actor, and they will, because
they mistake directing
they
for
get
yelling.
frustrated. They get frustrated, and because they're not expressing themselves clearly. So the problem is the director. Most directors that get frustrated and start yelling at you is because they are lacking the ability to communicate with you, and
in other words, they don't know how to do their job, and so they're taking it out on you.
That's correct. And the problem is they want to make you look bad, so they don't
Well,
people don't see them lacking.
I mean, sometimes we're not saying everybody, woman. Calm down.
All right.
What happened?
No. Sarah's just playing
She wouldn't
devil's
go that
advocate again.
far.
Sarah's just playing devil's advocate again.
Oh yeah, but what about it? What was that?
Priscilla was just joking, but Sarah, go ahead. Sarah being Sarah. She was saying she wouldn't go as far as to say that the director is trying to make the actor look bad, is what she was commenting on.
I was saying probably not. I mean, think about it. Why would the director ever want to make an actor look bad?
Because then he would blame him.
But I think he's saying it in a way like not the performance, but saying that they're the reason it's not working, not me.
They're hard to work with.
Correct.
It's not that he's not doing a good job. It's that the actor is hard to work with and isn't helping him out. Like there are directors like that will blame the actor. Like, I can't work with him. He's just, when he's not doing a good job, he's not communicating correctly, but he's blaming the actor for it.
He's telling him to be yellow and he doesn't know how, so.
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah, no. Of course, you as a director, you would never want, I mean, if you're doing your job correctly, you want the actor to look his best. You want to get the best performance out of everything. And in my experience, in my life, I've seen that the actors and everything works better if there's harmony in the environment. There's a lot of people that crack down under pressure. I had to do this with the session. This was an actor that wasn't really an actor, didn't have a lot of experience, and he started cracking down because he started forgetting the lines. And you have to be again, talking about directing, it's going to be a long time, but you have to be aware. You have to, as a director, you have to be aware of everything that's happening with everybody at all times. So if this guy started breaking down in the middle of a scene and we had no time, we had no more time left. So I started talking to him, and I started being his sexual therapist in that moment. But not, of course, giving him therapy, not actual therapist.
I don't know why I heard sexual therapist for some
I
reason.
have no idea, but I meant actual.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But
audio.
It's because English is not my first language.
Oh no, it's not you. It's my audio cut off. So I just heard wool language. So I was like, huh?
Well, the thing is, he didn't have a lot of confidence in that moment, so I had to build that confidence for him. And even though I saw that he didn't have it, I talked to him in a way to make him feel better and to get the confidence out of my confidence in his confidence. I don't know if I'm getting the point across.
I think I understand you. Like to be a director, you need to be empathetic and try to understand where your actor is coming from. Because if you make him confident in his performance, you will be confident knowing that he is confident. Like, okay,
and
he's
the film
good,
is gonna. That's correct. And in the end, the film is gonna be better. And the scene, trust me, the scene was better and was finished in time. Right after sometimes actors just need you to give them your confidence, so they can feel confident about what they're doing. And this is
if you're constantly criticizing them and not like helping them do a better performance.
That's one of the other parts of the directors, of the bad directors, that they want to guilt you into, or to push you, or to blame you, or to shame you into
that you have the fault, that you don't have the experience, or you have the talent. They will even go there to tell you what are you doing here if you don't have the talent. Like if you go on TV and they didn't select you, they didn't do the casting for you, and then they end up having you as an actor that they have to work with. You'll see that a lot of directors, people that direct, will say that you have the problem, that it is your problem, and that's what happens. So and the problem is the actor is not going to feel confident. He's not going to be able to express what the character needs, and the story is going to go to crap, and everybody's going to be afraid of talking to the director, or they're going to start a fight with the actor. And it's insane. It's insane the amount of things that will go wrong when a director is being an asshole.
So Sarah,
no, definitely, because it makes everybody more closed off.
Choosing your words whenever you talk to actors, you have to understand that, as you said, you're talking to people that have feelings and have insecurities or they have a big ego either. So you have to know how to handle a lot of people, and you have to know how to manage things, because sometimes you're going to have people that have big names in your set, and everything's going to go crazy if you don't know how to handle that. So you have to, and the way that you're going to do this is, if you have the experience, you have to build up the experience of screwing up a lot of jobs, screwing up a lot of things. And
I think building up empathy as well, right? Understanding the other person and not just looking at it from your perspective. I feel like good directors are directors that are empathetic, that can like see both sides, that know what the actor is going through, at least took an acting class, or try to understand where they're coming from. Because that is directing. Like, it's not just giving orders, it's actually helping someone give the best performance they can, understanding them, helping them understand the character. It's a collaborative effort. And I feel like you said, and this is what I wanted to say, like explain to Sarah what do you mean, Sarah? Not that we're saying like, oh, directors are evil or they want to sabotage people or whatever. We're just saying that people who are bad directors, they don't know what their job really is, because they try to tell people what to do, or tell them that they're doing, or criticize them the entire time, instead of helping them come to that good performance together, as in a collaboration, helping him help you, pretty much. The director helping the actor help him, and understanding the actor and communicating well and working together to give that good performance. Instead, no, they will not know how to communicate, because they won't be trying, or because they will not be looking at the other person's perspective, and they will blame them for the fact that they can't get their point across, their thought across, and they will think that the actor is the one who's being problematic, the actor's the issue, when really you're not doing your job properly, which is to collaborate with the actor to give that performance. Did I give a good explanation of that, Jorge?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's basically what I the whole conversation. And yeah, so if you have to understand that it's you're dealing with people with emotions, you're not dealing with mannequins. So just when they come to the set, just asking them how they are, and it's like, yeah, we know that we're doing things, and you're not gonna sit down and have a cup of coffee in the middle of a scene. That's not what's gonna happen. But you have to understand that you're talking to people, you know, and you're not gonna sit and talk, oh well, tell me the whole story about your life, right? And with budget running out, and you don't do that. But you have to understand, you have to be nice. That's, I think, in the end, you have to be a good person and strive to be a good person all the time with people that deserve that. And if people don't deserve that you are a good person to them, you're still going to be a good person, and you're going to get them out of the set, because they have nothing to do in the set.
Yeah, if you give your all and you've tried everything and it's still not working, then that's not on you anymore. Like, you've tried.
And in the end, this is the people that you chose for your production. So you have to have some conversations with them before. You have to sort of know what their general idea is, because of course you're never going to know somebody from like a 15-minute casting that you did. It's never going to happen. You don't know what they want. You know what their wants are in life. You don't know where they came from. If they have they just had a breakup, or if somebody just in their family just passed away. You have no idea what people are going through. So, and you never know what's happening when they come to the set. And I've seen people break down. I've seen wannabe directors. That's what I call them. That talk to people, and they just enjoy having the power of breaking somebody down and breaking their feelings and see them cry. And I just believe that's just such a bad thing to do, because they're just hungry with power. And
and that's why we talk about the ego. You don't want to be a director because you want to work to make something better. You want to be the director because you like the ego and the power trip.
Correct. So you have to understand that you're in a position of power. It is. Directing is a position of power. You have a lot of power over a lot of things. But you have to understand that, and we're not going to go the Spider-Man route, but we all know what comes with great power. So, and it is what it is. It's very true.
And if
it's so
don't,
famous because that's what it is. So you have to understand that, and you have to be clear of just everybody. Whenever somebody wants to get into directing, it encapsulates so much more than just saying where the camera's going to go and what the actors have to do. You have to be a full stack person, and you're going to choose people that are interesting by themselves as an actor. As you can't have a good actor that has no that doesn't have an interesting inner life. So, well, it's we can talk a lot, but yeah, basically that's the superficial things of directing.
I'm gonna send you guys the link to one of the websites about rehearsals, since I don't think we're gonna be able to get through it today because it's a lot and a lot of different perspectives and everything. I don't know if you guys looked at the syllabus, but if you haven't, please look at that link, and I might send one about pacing as well, if I can find it.
Yeah, the directing is just, there's so much to it, and that's why
So much.
that's why I don't like a lot in the syllabus too, because it's just, there's a lot, and it does, you can't really capture it all in, you know, a class like this, but you can kind of discuss different techniques and ideas and get a sense of it. But once you're actually doing it, it's going to be different. You know, like you can practice and you can read about it, but once you actually start doing it, you're going to start learning by doing. Like Jorge was saying, you're going to make those mistakes. Brian was talking about it, making mistakes and then learning from it, switching the way you do it to try to fix it next time, and then seeing, oh, does that work? Does that not? And it's just like a learning experience, and trial and error over and over until you get your way of doing it.
Yeah. Oh, so sorry, Sarah. I was just gonna say, Daniel wanted to say something, and after I was gonna ask Brian his opinion. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just gonna say, like, you know, being a director and things, like doing that kind of role, it's an interesting one because you have a different viewpoint of the whole set. And again, like you guys are saying, like with all the power and things that comes with that, it's kind of I would say it's not like you wouldn't aspire to be a director so that you can be the one in control. I feel like you aspire to be a director because you really want to make stories come to life on the screen, if that makes any sense. And that's kind of how I see it. And you like working with actors, and you like helping the actor give the best performance and seeing them do well. I feel like those are like aspects. And I think that in reverse, saying a director should take an acting class, if an actor learns a little bit about directing, it actually helps as well.
Definitely. I feel like since they work so closely together and they have to collaborate together, it is always good to understand each other and see where the other one is coming from. And that's how I know Coda, sorry, I was just gonna say, that's how I know Coda will make a good director, because he is just so passionate about it and he is so understanding, and I can't wait to see you work, honey. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was actually curious to see like how like hearing about all these things, I'm like curious to see how I'll go about it now that I'm going to put a lot of effort into pre-production and stuff, because that's something I haven't really done before. When I was doing the YouTube videos, I was kind of doing quantity over quality, so I was just kind of doing them to do them, and I wasn't having as much planning. I'm curious to see how I'll go about it when I actually take the time to get to know the whole script and everything.
I don't mean to like overhype him, guys. Like, he hates when I compliment him in public. I'm sorry. I was just saying that, like,
I'm good.
The more we learn about it, the more I think you would actually be really good, is all I'm saying. But I'm not overhyping. He could suck, guys. Low expectations.
I could. But one thing I did want to mention though, is kind of banking off of what Jorge said, and then I'll let you talk, Daniel. But directors aren't rulers. They are like group leaders. So there's a difference between being like a ruler and just demanding everything you want and getting what you want, and then working with other people, being a leader to lead that crew to what you need them to get done. So it's kind of like you need to know what your crew is capable of, and you need to know, like we said, the individual people and the individual actors, so that you can communicate with them differently to get everybody to work collaboratively. And one more thing is, the director sets the mood, the professionalism on set, because they're the leader. So however they're acting is kind of what everyone else is going to act. Is the director joking around, that's going to make everyone feel a little more at ease and feel like they can joke around too, which is fine.
But not too much, because
it's fine if it's not like overly done, and then they have to set down the law and tell them, no, you guys, you cut it out. So there has to be like a give and take when it comes to leading a whole set. And that's why
everything in balance
is more than just working with actors. Like Brian was saying, you were kind of working with everybody, because you're kind of leading the whole crew and showing them what's okay, what's not okay. And on top of that, another note I had that people said is, make sure that your actors aren't trying to direct one another, whether it's during rehearsal or on set. one actor shouldn't be telling the other how to do it. If the actor does have a complaint or they're not working well with that actor, they need to come to the director and be like, hey, they're not giving me that sad emotion. It's kind of hard to have the empathy towards this scene. And then the director needs to go to them and kind of work out how to get them to get that sadness in their emotion. But that actor shouldn't be telling that other actor, hey, you need to be better at that scene, because it's just it's being a huge conflict and make the whole thing a mess. That's all I wanted to really say. But go ahead, Daniel.
That makes sense.
Daniel? You there?
No answer.
Daniel, you're muted.
Is he muted?
Yeah.
Yes, I
Put his
am.
hand down. Oh, okay. You're unmuted now. Go ahead.
I was throwing away garbage, so I did that. I forgot about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So everyone's been bringing up points, but I didn't know that Sarah was part robot. First off, she sounded like a robot earlier.
Yeah.
And second of all, like, everyone's been bringing up great points. It's like communication is key, but not just with the actors, with the crew as well, because you never know what. Like, a crew could have lost their mom the other day, could have lost whatever, or just gone through stuff. Like, I always, like, I've learned, this is my weakness. Like, you, how you said, Lakota, that your weakness there, mine was basically just trying to respond to people's feelings. I'm working on that. Like, just making sure everyone's okay whenever I talk to them and stuff like that. Yeah. It's a great thing to do. Since I've been doing it, I feel a lot better. I feel like my team is a lot more responsive. Yeah. And just also just like putting that care in and just telling them that I am proud of them instead of keeping it inside my head. Mm-hmm. Like, it's basically when you tell people that, better, you get great work, and you also feel better with yourself that you actually said it instead of staying there. Yeah, because then nobody knows what you're thinking, so they're like, "Oh, he hasn't talked time? Does he hate us?
Does he hate us? Is he mad?"
Like, sometimes, like, I used to just keep it in my head and just like, and then people would just think I'm in a mood all the time, and I'm like, "What's going on with that?" And then, to be honest, this program, whatever you want to call it, study group program works too. I'm not calling it a class, so
yes, it's already progress.
But yeah, basically it just made me realize that I need to start putting more care into my crew, more care into that, and especially when my production is getting bigger now. It's like I gotta push myself to just realize that stuff. It's like it's gonna help basically push the production up. It's gonna help basically, even like you said, Jorge, I think it was.
Well, you gotta say it so we know.
What did he say?
No, I'm just making sure I'm pronouncing his name right.
Oh yeah.
Like, basically he said he's like that when you basically just make sure your talent's okay, make sure what they've been through, don't let them slack off, but let them, if there's something on their mind, they're gonna need someone to talk to for a brief minute. And sometimes, like, and don't also let your actor talk to actors. That's a very true thing. I've seen that on sets, and it doesn't make the best results. Like, sometimes, like, once in a blue moon, yes, it does. Yeah. But that's very
But it's
rare.
not their job, even if it is helpful. Like, if you have a note, you talk to the director, and the director will talk to the actor. It's not your job.
Yeah, like, it's different. Like, it's different if they're working together. Like, I think what you mean is, like, they're kind of working off each other. That's different than them trying to tell them how to do it, or like, I can't work with you because you're not being sad enough, like you said. So
yeah, it's hard. Like, you kind of have to suck it up and just kind of, as an actor, work with everyone. And if you are noticing problems, keeping to yourself works like a charm, and then talking to the director. But obviously, if you get along really well and you get to have jokes and stuff, that just makes life even better. But it doesn't always happen that way, which is fine.
And also, like, you can have a joking relationship with them, but if you're in character, if you guys are acting in a working environment, sometimes he'll need to stay in character. Sometimes it's a completely different person you're dealing with. So don't feel like you're comfortable. Like, hey, dude, you kind of sucked in that one. Like, they're in a sensitive moment. They're doing their job. Like, even if you can say that as a friend, as a coworker, it might be a little different. So just
like
no boundaries.
Like on this last set, not the last set, but one of the films I was on last year, one of the actors was actually telling me how to camera op.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, stay to your acting gig.
I've had that happen before, and I was like, dude, you're just stay in your lane, bro. Like, he was like, oh, but I don't understand. And I was like, you're not the editor. Like, I'm doing this for the editor's
It's
sake.
like, oh, I used to do this or that. Like, cool. Well, I'm doing this right now. So
the guy does his own YouTube videos. So like, he was like, I was setting up a specific shot and I was blocking it out, and he's like, midway through the take, he was like, why are we doing this again? And I was like, don't worry about it. Like,
right.
Go about doing it. You're not an editor. You're not the director. You're not the editor. Like, I'm doing this for the editor's sake. So like, stop arguing and butting heads with the DP and just do it. But I kind of just caved in and was like, whatever, like, we'll try your way. But at the end, the best way to handle that thing is like to say, okay, let's do one take your way. And then
like I have
just to get it out of the way, so I'm not hurting your pride or your ego. We're trying both, and we can let the editor decide what's best. But I totally
and
understand.
And then they'll shut up about it too.
Yeah, that was, it's rude. It's rude to do that. Like, you don't know what the final product is going to look like.
Even if it's coming from a good place, even if you think you're being helpful, like, it's their job, it's their lane. Like, if after like I was giving the example last time, if you're friends and after the thing you go do coffee, you can, or a drink or whatever, you can ask a question, but not while they're working. And also trust their thing. Like, it's their thing. It's not yours. When it's your turn, you can call the shots.
But the thing is, even that when that happened, because I did his shot and I did my shot and I did the director's shot. I did all three shots just to make him happy. And then because I didn't do one of his shots, he decided to sabotage the movie.
What?
Yeah.
Dude,
making
what position was the
he was an actor.
What?
But he was a camera op in his outside life, like outside that. But he was like making loud noise behind the scenes, playing with all the pots and pans and everything.
You mean just trying to get you fired, like making your job harder type of thing?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
I was already dealing with the producer being loud as heck, and then dealing with him. It's like, this is not helping me at all.
Yeah. But let's keep on track, guys, because it's already 12 before. Brian, did you have anything to add to the director experience? Like, something you've learned from directors that you think is really important, or something that you would, like, advice that you would give for working with actors that we haven't touched on yet, or for directors in general?
Nothing that I haven't already said before, but like, I think Jorge has more directing experience than I do. I'm going to put that out there. Like, I do a lot of cinematography and sound work, but I do learn
experiences you've had with directors that you're like, okay, don't do that.
I'll pick up some things that I'm like, I'm definitely not going to do that on my set, or I'm definitely not going to do this, or I'll take something from a director. Okay, I thought that was pretty cool how, like, she got this, reaction and all this good stuff. So I do, you have to have an understanding, like, it's not just you and the actor, like, people around you are picking up vibes from you. I think you guys kind of touched on that either too. Like, you're creating an environment, like, with your attitude, and then, like, people are learning from you and learning what to do and what not to do. I've had bad experiences with with directors. I've had bad experience because like I had mentioned before, like, it's not just you and the actors. Sometimes the camera guy or the DP is looking for some kind of direction as well. Like, I've been on sets where the director was like, man, just do whatever it is you got to do. And sometimes that works. Like, for me, like, I like to be creative and stuff and do my own thing. But then sometimes, like, I want some guidance from the director, like, hey, is this what you really want? Especially if it's not like my forte. Like, cause like I do a lot of like horror, a lot of dark
your
comedy.
lane.
I know my lane. But whenever it's like
I
I'm
get
venturing
that.
out, like I gotta find out, like, is this what you want?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Like, you gotta let me know, like, is this working for you or not?
And then if they don't know, doesn't that just make it harder for you? If they're just
Yeah.
like, I don't know, do it how you want. Like if you're asking them for direction and they don't give it to you, like
Yeah, especially like I was called in to finish a film for somebody else, and I was like, okay, that's a big no-no, like to have somebody else finish your film. And fortunately, I knew the guy that was shooting before, and I knew why he left. Like he left on some drama thing, so I was like, what am I walking into? But I kind of took it as for a friend. So I explained to them, I was like, yo, me and Donovan have two different styles. Like I'm an old school, like if you want something that looks like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon, I'm the guy to go to. But like if you want some of this new age stuff, like I'm not the guy to go to. Like I'm a traditional on the sticks, on the slider, pans,
Yeah,
tilt.
and I feel like that's okay to know like your style and what works for you, because sometimes people are afraid like, oh, I need to get this job because of this. If that's not what you're good at, the passion's not going to seep through. You're not going to like give as much as you would or as good of a job as you would for something you're used to or comfortable with. So sometimes you got to know your limits. Like experimenting is always good. If you feel like you can try it and you want to try it, it's great. Experiment, work it out. But if you know that you don't like that and you're not good at that and you just want a paycheck, I feel like you're gonna end up having a crappy thing. Like that's just me. Like what, you agree, disagree?
I'm torn because like there's plenty of times where you get in the acting experience, say you're doing a hard part and you're challenging yourself, which is kind of a fun thing to do.
No, but that's acting. I'm talking about like different genre completely.
Well,
like
there's different, everyone's gonna have a different style. A director's gonna have, maybe they're a better director on comedies than they are on dramas, or maybe they're better at horror, or maybe they want to do all of it. Like that's fine too, but like they're gonna have their certain style of how they go about doing it, just like a cinematographer will. Like Brian was talking about, like
I just feel like I've seen
it, which is why he was saying when you go into a movie where someone else was working on it, look at Justice League. There was a different director over the whole thing. A new director with a completely different style comes in, and the movie is completely different because of it, and it doesn't work. I don't think it works anyway. But go ahead, Brian.
Fight me on that.
About cinematography.
But yeah, so I don't know if you would disagree, Brian. Please feel free. That's just my opinion because I feel like I see a lot of directors or actors where you can tell the passion's not in it. That's not what they love to do, and they're just doing it for a paycheck, and you can tell.
Oh, which is Steven asked me how did it work out in the end. It worked out good. Like what I ended up having to do was like I went to him, I was like, yo, let me see some of the footage you already shot and like just look at some. So I was like, okay, this guy he's got a lot of like steady cam shots, or he does a lot of this type of movement. So then I would try to like keep that pace going a little bit.
You try to imitate what he was going for?
Yeah, like I was trying to be him in a way to keep it going, which was kind of difficult, but it was like a learning process for me as well.
So question, like, did you ever see the end product?
They have the footage. I have my own little, because that's the best thing about being the cinematographer is that you have the footage. So like I have like I'm different. So like when I shoot a scene, like the second I get home, like I'm already like editing it to see if everything worked. So that way I can be like, oh, I should have put a shot there, and then I'll add it to the makeup days. So like we got to go back to that shot and get another.
Yeah, that's smart instead of waiting till the last minute.
So a lot of times with my production, especially with this new movie I'm working on, I'll already have like little rough cuts edited and everything, and I'll show it to like my cinematographer, and I'll be like, yo, is there anything that you want to add to the scene or take away or do this or do that ever? Because it like I started editing first, so I'm pretty quick with it.
But do you feel it's easy to tell the difference of the cut that you have? Can you tell like, okay, this is a completely different person?
Because Donovan really didn't take it seriously, but I think I did a pretty good job matching what I had with his. I didn't get as many like steady cam movement shots as because he's just big on that, and me, I'm just like, man, just put it on some sticks. But I did get a lot of movement on that. was like a sci-fi action movie. I actually have like a scene or something if you guys want to check that out. But yeah.
Email it. You're owing me an email of your stuff. I've been asking like 4 times. I feel like a beggar at this point.
I can show it to you right now. It's on my YouTube.
Well, yeah, but it's like 12:11, dude. So
Let's
like
do that
email
after
me and I'll
recording.
send it.
Well, first of all, it's like someone else's project, so I don't want to show it in a recording.
Well, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not doing. They done moved on to something else. It's done and it's
Oh,
one
so
and
they're
done.
never gonna put it out.
No, like it was that's part of the reason why the guy left in the first place. He was like, this isn't going anywhere, and he just walked away. And he was trying to tell me about it, and I was just like, I'm just doing it for a friend. So like, I really don't care what they do with it. But that's the best part about being a cinema. Not only that, but me, like I have all the sound gear, so I end up using a lot of times they ask me for sound gear, and then we'll get somebody to use my. So I have the sound and I have the footage, so it's like I have all
everything.
I have like everything to make. I actually have all the footage to edit the movie myself, but like I'm not gonna do that. Like,
right.
If they're not gonna pay me to edit, I'm not gonna edit.
Yeah.
So Brian has the power.
Yeah, and I hate
the
doing.
power.
Like it's so underappreciated. Like this last project I did last Wednesday, like they wanted they called in for they wanted a DP, but then they wanted me to run sound too. So I was like, you do know that's a completely different
Oh
department.
my gosh. Don't get me started on that. The more we're learning about sound and talking to professionals, the more I get pissed every time. Both DP and sound, 2 areas that I see all the time, especially with independent creators. They're like, oh, I'll just have this person DP or whatever, or I'll just have this person do sound. And they don't know what
the client doesn't understand, because when they put these things out there, they're like, yeah, must have your own camera, must have your own sound equipment, but they don't understand like that is a completely different department, and it's gonna suffer from. Luckily for me, like I'm used to that vibe. Like I learned a lot of that in film school, like just working by yourself and stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to it, but still, like it's exhausting. Like directing movies in general, even
and
with
people
all the
that expect you to do everything too, it must be exhausting, right?
Even with the crew, it's exhausting because everybody's coming at you. Everybody, the makeup department, the sound department, the DP, everybody's coming at you and asking these questions. And it's like there's a time where you're gonna be like, man, you guys are grown adults. Figure it out for yourself. Like you want to say that, but you can't. Like I remember I keep talking about that first film I did, and that was the biggest learning experience because it was like the first time. And that's where I learned, like, man, I need an assistant, because like the first scene we shot was like at this location at this this car repair store, and like everybody was like, my phone was just blowing up. Where do I park? Where do I do this? What do you want? And I'm like, yo, you guys are adults, figure it out. You know what I mean? And I had to respond to each and every individual
come on.
text.
If you're shooting, you gotta have that.
That's what I'm saying. Like I did have it, but I'm saying like everybody was coming at
they
me.
didn't read the thing you sent out?
It's kind of obvious. Like we were shooting in a Sears parking lot. Where do I park? In the parking lot. Like figure it out. Like
okay.
It's obvious. Like everybody, I mean, like every little detail outside of the call sheet was like, oh, I brought, and I did this. Did you need, and that's what the assistant director is for, is to be that middleman.
Yeah.
But still, like, they're going to be coming at you with 110 questions too. Like, what color did you want the dress to be? Or what color did you want the flowers? All these decisions you have to make, and it's exhausting. And now just imagine having to do that on a low budget set where
you're doing more than one. That's why when you're a producer and director, it's a lot harder, because you're doing all of the business side and the creative side at the same time. So you're having, like you said, everybody come at you. And it's
crazy.
That's why it's always good to try to get a crew as big as you can together, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of different things going on at once, especially when everyone has questions like, where do I park? And if it's a parking lot, like you said.
Yeah, because it'd be completely different if it was like some other place and we needed to figure out parking. And yeah, then that'd be fine. But if you're filming in parking, yeah, that's a little different. Anyway, honey, is there anything else? Because it's getting pretty late.
I was gonna kind of just rapid fire through the rest. of the stuff I've written down that we haven't covered. And I mean, we might have covered it, I don't know, but I was just gonna kind of rapid go through it.
Oh, I had asked,
questions.
oh yeah, you go ahead. I was just gonna ask, honey, do you have Angel's contact? Because I don't.
Yeah, I have her email.
Okay, please ask her to send me her number if she can, so I can add her to the WhatsApp.
Angel, you still in here? Well,
I think she was saying
I'll just
goodnight.
email her
So.
and ask.
Mhm.
But yeah, so just I'm gonna rapid fire through this, and then we already kind of went over some of the rehearsal stuff, but we can kind of rapid fire through that. And then if anyone has any questions or comments, we can do that, and then just show what we're doing for Thursday, and then go off because it's kind of late. So
yeah, I'm pretty happy that even though we did derail a lot, we pretty much hit all of the points that we were gonna hit, except for maybe the audition part, which I sent the website to in the WhatsApp group.
You mean the rehearsal?
Because yeah, the rehearsal.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, except for the rehearsal part, I already sent the email out. But I'm glad we hit all the points because it was just natural and we were already talking about this, and pretty much everything we studied, the people that have had experiences and have learned agree and are pretty much saying the same things as are on the syllabus, which also makes us feel very good. Except for that first documentary part, guys, ignore that. That's garbage. Don't watch that.
I still think there's a lot to learn from him.
No, there is a
his
lot.
Demonstrations aren't good. The first guy, the demonstrations aren't that great, but the things he's saying make sense, and so
it's just he talks a lot like, all right, now we're going to do this, and we're going to figure out whatever.
That sounds
And
like
then
Bob Ross.
A 5-second pause every single time. Like my anxiety was through the roof. I was like, keep going.
Sounds like Bob Ross.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And the acting was also very cringy, and it was very hard to watch. But yeah.
I'm gonna rapid fire through this, guys. If anyone has any questions or comments, we'll just go ahead and bring them up.
I don't mean to trash the guy, guys.
Oh, Brian
I'm sorry.
got kicked out. Let me add him back in.
Honey, I don't mean like trashing the guy, guys. Please no. I'm not trashing him. Like the entire time I was like, you know what? He's saying
Thanks for
is
coming,
really
Jorge.
good.
Have a good night.
What he's saying is really good. I just feel like the execution wasn't the best and the acting examples weren't the best. But there's still a lot of good things. I don't mean to sound like I'm trashing the person. Goodness gracious. Not that they'll ever see this, but still, like, I
said it like
don't want to
5
be.
times, so I'm just like,
I know, but that was the only example that was like in my head. You know, it's like Lord of the Rings. It's like my favorite movie, so it's like the main example for a bunch of stuff. You know, because it's the thing that's in your head the
can't
most.
hold everyone to Lord of the Rings standards.
I'm not saying. Oh gosh.
Anyway,
yes,
no.
You
Come
know
on,
what I mean.
let me go through this stuff so we can end the meeting.
Keep going.
All right. So you want to make, we kind of already covered this, but you want to make a safe and comfortable environment on set for the actors to feel free to give it their all and to be able to make mistakes. You don't want them to feel like Jorge was explaining, you don't want them to feel like they can't mess up because that's going to get them in their head. They're going to be really nervous. They're going to be really afraid to mess up. Give them a little freedom to act how they want to feel like they want to act, and then work from there and direct from there.
You don't want to pressure them.
Exactly. You don't want to over direct or micromanage. You want to be concise and short with your instruction and guidance, and leave creative freedom for the actor to take what you've said and roll with it. One of the things they said, they gave a example of it being kind of like if you were going to go into a boxing ring and have a fight. You don't want the coach to tell you, okay, you got to raise your hand at 2 steps in, raise your right hand, and then go to the left a little bit, but then do this and that, because then they're going to be thinking about the whole run through and they're going to lose the fight because they're not going to be reacting to the other fighter. So it's a lot of reaction and impulse of when to block. You can say like, he does a lot of uppercuts, so make sure you're blocking this way and blah, blah, blah. And then they can kind of get the sense of, okay, I'm going to run with that instruction and go with it. And maybe they can win the fight, or they'll at least have a better chance than if they're trying to follow a play-by-play if you micromanage it. So it's the same thing with acting. You don't want to micromanage it and give them too much instruction, like we kind of described earlier, where you're giving them a certain line and a certain thing to feel on each individual word and line and all of that. You want to leave it up to them. Don't use vague adjectives to give them motivation. That was kind of like saying yellow. That doesn't make any sense. It's not going to be able to, or you're feeling a little indifferent. And then like, that's not really going to help them know what you mean or how to act that. They need to know why the character is acting the way they are and what's behind their emotion, and what are they trying to get out of this interaction? Because there's always an interaction. There's always someone's always trying to get something out of it. Like in the earlier example I was giving, that the husband was trying to catch, or I don't know if I said husband, but the guy was trying to catch the girl lying. So he's trying to get her to admit that she's lying, and she's not doing it. So his objective is to get her to admit it. And so that's what he's trying to get the whole scene. So then at least he knows his motivation and why he's doing the things he's doing, why he's acting the way he's acting, why he's getting mad, stuff like that. Let's see, what else? They said a good thing would be finding like a list of action verbs online and then going through those and kind of matching them to what the scene would be, so that you can have that action verb to give the actor, and let them run with it, like whatever that may be of how they're feeling or why their character is reacting a certain way. Compliment, reassure your actors when they're doing exactly what you want or doing very well, so that they keep it up and are more comfortable and they know they're doing a good job. We explained that a bunch. You want to try to correct the actors early if they're changing the character in a way that doesn't make sense to the story. Have a conversation about it, and always have a justification for your reasoning. If there's a reason why the character can't be a certain way, then why not let the actors run with it? If there's a reason that they can't, then you want to kind of bring up that conversation, catch them early and stop them. But if there's no reason for it, there's no justification for why they can't do something, then you could at least, like Brian was saying, let them take it that way, so that you at least have that footage and you can see, okay, they want to do it this way, but I was thinking the character would be more like this. And then you can do it both ways and see what you like better in post, if you have time. Otherwise, you have to figure out kind of like the middle ground, or if you just want to be taking over and say, no, we're doing it my way this scene, but maybe your way next scene. There's a different way you can go about doing it for each scene. There were some tips that include actors in your process. Ask them if they want to look at the storyboard and shot list to kind of get a sense of what the story is going to be like on screen. If they don't want that, then of course don't show them, but certain actors will want certain things, and maybe they want to be a part of the process and kind of know where you're coming from that side of things, so they can see how the final look of it's going to be. Especially if it's like a green screen scene, it might be good to show them the character. If it's CGI or something like that, it might be good to show them who they're talking to, so they can kind of react to it, instead of it just being like, if it's an actor in a motion capture suit, you want to show them the character that they're going to be talking to in the end scene. They're going to be talking to a lion. It's not a person crawling on all fours. It's a lion. So, get used to like show them that it's a lion and that they can see where the scene's going to be and what's going to be happening in it. It says, let the actor do a complete take before speaking. And I think that what they meant was like, let them run with it and then go ahead and like say, okay, so I see what you did there, but can you change this and that? Don't cut them off in the middle, because like I said earlier, you might want that in the end. It might make more sense to the character, or it might make more sense to the story, or you might just like the way it came out. Make sure to have the actors not be waiting if you can. Always keep them up to date on what's happening if they have to wait around. If you have to set the next scene, give them that time, like, okay, we're going to be ready in 20 minutes. That way they know. So they're not just waiting around for the next scene and getting bored, and you want to keep them actively interested in the whole thing. Don't sugarcoat. You always want to be direct and to the point. They want feedback and guidance, and to get the best performance they can. So don't try to be too easy on it, and don't try to walk around the problem. If there's a problem, they're saying be direct with it and to the point. Of course, we were saying there's different ways to go about it depending on the person, but you don't want to just you don't want to not say what you're trying to say. You want to make sure to get it across what you are trying to communicate to them, so that they understand and can adapt or change their performance for it. They say avoid results-oriented direction. Like, don't tell them you need to cry at the end of the scene, or I want the audience to feel sad here. You want them to kind of let that come out of their performance. Don't tell them how to feel. Don't tell them what to do. They should be able to cry if it's a sad scene and they're emotional and they're in the character's headspace in that moment. But if it's not absolutely essential that they actually physically cry.
And there's always eye drops for that.
There's eye drops for it, but you don't want to like try to tell them you have to cry on this line, because that's going to get them too worried about not being able to do it most of the time. And then they're going to maybe not be in the headspace of the character and not be able to do that scene. And it's going to be even worse than what it was originally before they started doing that. Listen to the actor's instincts. If something isn't working, consider a rewrite. That's something to do with rehearsals. That's always a good thing with rehearsals. You want to go over everything and see what's working, what's not, what the actors think, what the actors' ideas are, and then work with them to try to figure out if it can work in the script, or if it's not going to work, you got to let them know, like, I understand where you're coming from, but you have to think about it. The character right now is blah, 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 blah. And then you have to explain like what's happening so that they understand why they can't do something a certain way, or why their performance can't be the way they want it if it doesn't work for the story. This is a good one. Treat professional and new actors with the same amount of respect. If you have an actor that has acted in higher productions and you bring them on an indie set, and there's a lot of actors that are a little more unknown, or they don't know what they're doing as much, you don't want to show favoritism towards the main actor. You don't want to have them seem like they're higher up than everyone else. And you want to treat everyone with the same amount of respect. Don't disrespect the actors that are maybe they're doing background work. Don't disrespect them just because they're only doing one line or something like that, or even if they don't have any lines. Treat everyone with the same amount of respect, because that's going to come off in a great way for your scene. Active ideas, finding thoughts that mass produce behavior. So you want to like explain the character, and like I was saying, that'll produce behavior when he's trying to get to find out that she's lying, trying to get her to admit it. That would get him, the actor, to act a certain way, and would produce the behavior so that you don't have to describe the behavior to them, and you don't have to specify you need to call her a liar, or you need to be angry. You can explain it in a way that they'll know, okay, he's really mad right now because she's not telling him the truth. Says, actors should not indicate, which is showing emotion without the underlying thought process. So they shouldn't just try to look sad. They should actually try to feel sad, or at least portray it in a good way, like where it's just not on their face. It's not just an expression. It's not just a way they're moving around. It's actually, you can kind of feel it coming through their emotion, and they're matching themselves to that character to kind of get that emotion flowing, and it really flows through the screen. Let's see. I already said this one. Like we said earlier, don't let there be anticipation. Waiting for lines or jumping to a line too quickly or waiting for a specific cue is going to make it look awkward and like it's a set. So you want to make sure that there's an ebb and flow to the whole scene and that they're working off each other. If it's just one actor, you want to make sure that they're not, maybe it's an actor talking into the phone. You want to make sure they're not just taking huge weird pauses, unless it, like, you want to try to find a way to get them to act as naturally as possible. So you don't want them to feel too awkward with it. There was actually a scene in one of the videos where the girl was talking on the phone and nobody was talking to her on the other end, and there was nobody reading lines or anything. So she was just kind of taking random pauses. and the emotion wasn't there. It wasn't as there as it should have been, is what we thought. And so it's always good to try to, oh yeah, another one is always good to try to work around those kind of things. If they have to call somebody on the phone, why not have somebody read a line to them or say it off screen so that they can at least have that reaction?
And have lots of B-roll.
What's that?
Have lots of B-roll.
Have what?
B-roll.
Oh yeah.
Because in case of those scenes, then you basically could put B-roll to basically so it doesn't look like they're reading off screen or whatever. You could cheat something else.
Okay, yeah. Or you could record it off screen, the lines, and then play it back. That's
Yeah,
another-
ADR.
have them both actually talk in one scene and then just cut out her lines and have that same amount of space. You can do that. Let's see. Don't tell someone how to have their attitude either. You don't want to just be like, when you walk in, be a total dick. But then when they start talking to you and they're more friendly, you become more friendly and be kind of like a jokester. Because that's not really going to get them to do what you want. They're just it's gonna be one dimensional, and they're gonna be kind of a dick at first, but it's gonna be unnatural seeming, and they're gonna be more one note. So it's better to always know why the character's acting like a dick and all of that, like we've said a million times, so that they just act like a dick instead of that being the only thing they do. Already said all these. Let's see. And one of the things I said was like, sometimes you can allow the actor to do it their way. Sometimes you need to control it for the story. But sometimes don't only allow and don't only control. You can find a middle ground, you can have compromise, or you can even do different takes like Brian was saying, and I think a few others, where you do one take their way, just so that even if you know it's not going to work for the story, at least they've done it their way. And then you can do it your way, and then you'll have both just in case anyway. So if there's time, you always want to be able to do it both ways just to see. And they said like a good way to do it, if you really need it to be controlled in your way, but you also want it to feel natural, is to start off with the controlled way where they have to do it they have to act a certain way and act a certain line and all of that. If you have to do that for the story, do it that way. And then the second take, let them do it there, allow them to kind of take it into their own, and then they'll be in the ballpark of what you wanted because they got the idea of, okay, he wants it like this, and now he's saying I can open up and do it my way, but they'll still stay in the ballpark of how you wanted it originally, rather than just saying go for it, and they go for, there's so many different ways a character can do a scene. So you don't want to just give them all the options in the world, because then they're going to be confused and not know which one to go for. There's just a billion options. They said a good way to kind of describe how to act in a scene might be like using maybes and examples instead of, I think Brian actually touched on this, but using maybes, like maybe she bites her nail, maybe she's twiddling her fingers, maybe she's kind of rocking back and forth, and that way they have a bunch of options to choose from while they're in the scene, and they kind of get to do it their own way and kind of implement those things at different times, instead of telling them, yeah, she's going to be twiddling her fingers, she's going to be rocking back and forth, and then they're going to be doing that the whole time, and it's going to feel weird. So it's better to use maybes and what they call as if direction, which is like what Jorge was saying. In one of his examples, he said, treat the scene as if you're going 100 miles per hour and you're about to run off a cliff, and you got to explain this to the other person before you fall off the cliff. And then they're going to be speaking faster instead of saying, speed up.
That makes sense.
That's going to be worse. So it's better to give them an as if, or what if they were going to be doing this, and then give them an as if explanation so that they can kind of work okay, I get that, I get what he's saying, so this is how I would act during that situation, or this is how my character would act during that situation. I already said this, but you always want to know what your characters are, who they are, and where their background comes from, or you want to work that out with the actor. And you want to know their reality, their past, their hopes, their future, their beliefs, their objectives, projections, their expectations. Are they expecting, in my example, is the guy expecting her to actually tell him the truth, or is he just wanting her to? So that's something that would change his behavior during the scene without me exactly saying what that behavior should be. All their any secrets they have, stuff like that, their beliefs, their religious beliefs, political beliefs, anything like that, it's all going to change their behavior within the scene. So it's always good to be very specific about character traits. But don't be specific about behavior itself, just the information that creates the behavior.
And also even the character traits, right? If you're overly specific and it has nothing to do with the story, like there are certain things that you don't really need to go into.
Yeah, like if his religion has nothing to do with anything in the story, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if it has something to do with, maybe there's a heavy scene where the wife's trying to get an abortion, or not the wife, well, I guess it could be the wife, trying to get an abortion, and he doesn't like that because it goes against his religion. We don't really say that in the script, but we just established that his religion doesn't
Gotcha.
or something like that. So,
Yeah, let's move on.
yeah. They said don't be too specific about what you liked in the previous take, or the spontaneity may be lost. So tell him it's a good job and that they're doing good, and I like where you're going with this, something like that. You want to be a little more vague with the compliments, because if you're saying, I like how you put your finger on your mouth, Sarah, like that. I like when you're thinking you're doing that, because then you're going to do it every single take. And I want a little bit of variation when it comes to that. So you don't want to be doing the same thing, and then it's going to get the actor thinking about, okay, I always need to do this because he likes that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, it's I feel a hard one because it's one of those situations when you played a lot of different characters for classes or whatever. In seeing the director's standpoint, you have so many different thoughts like just running.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, which makes it really interesting. But like at first you do get stuck into like one way of doing things, but then having more options and feeling more free in that. It's like, oh, if you like that, but like not all the time, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So it's just like the tip was just don't be too specific with what you like, because you don't want them to only do that, because you want it to be a little spontaneous, especially if the other actor that you're working off of, like you're reacting to, is doing something different in the scene. You don't want to be doing the same exact thing, because then it's going to feel weird and different, So
yeah, that's true.
One of the other tips that I actually wanted to touch on this when everyone is in here, but don't talk to actors in front of the other actor. Like the whole thing was, well, the example they give is if two friends are in the scene and they're at odds with each other and they're having a fight, you don't want to let each other know what the other one's feeling and thinking, because in real life, they wouldn't know exactly what they're thinking. They wouldn't know exactly how they're feeling. So it's good to have that, that impulsiveness in the scene, so that it's more natural feeling and it's a flow and an ebb. And so then they don't know exactly what's going on. They don't know what the other person's thinking. And so you want to kind of take them to the side, each actor, and kind of describe what you're going for individually, so that they can come together and do the scene, and then they're reacting off each other, instead of just like, oh, well, she's thinking of this. When I say this line, she's really upset. Instead, you want to just see that and then react off of it.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like in certain situations, like in an acting class where it's a little bit more open, like things are kind of a little bit more talked about in front of everyone. But I find like in the professional realm, like until like I don't know, it's like if you're in a situation or you're on a set with people and it's your first day or it's new, you don't know everyone that well. So I can feel that the privacy would be beneficial, just because in class, like a lot of times people are very nice and thoughtful, if you have a good group of people, but it only takes one person to create huge problems.
Well,
Yeah,
that's why one
not
of the
even just-
advice is
not even
also
just-
to,
what?
no, I was just gonna say also, that's why one of the advices that they gave was get all the actors to meet each other and get comfortable with each other during the rehearsals, because that way, you know, you become more comfortable with that person. There's less of an awkwardness, there's less tension. You don't have to like be best friends.
To kind of work through everything to see if something works and something doesn't, and play off each other.
You don't have to be besties, but you know, that way you at least become more comfortable with acting off of each other, and you're not like super
But
intimidated.
yeah, it's like two reasons for the whole take them to the side. It was one, if they're doing something you don't want, or if they are not doing the best job at the moment, not giving their best performance. I'll say that. You don't want to like kind of bring that up in front of the other actor, because that just, it's not a good dynamic to have the other actor being like, well, I'm doing it right, but that other actress, the director keeps talking to her, so she sucks. You know, so you want to bring them to the side so that you can kind of explain it to them only, and then also just for story reasons, you want it to be a little more natural in the scene, so you don't want
the other character to know all of
to understand everything that's going on in the character they're talking to. They don't want to understand everything that's going on in their head, because that's not like real life.
It wouldn't be a natural reaction like Brian was talking about in last meeting.
Because they'll know the script, they'll know the gist of everything, but they won't know exactly the direction that's happening if I take you to the side and I say, hey, you know, you're feeling this way and blah, blah, blah. And then I take them to the side and say the same thing, and then you guys clash heads together and you go through the
And it's just comfort too, right? Because like some actors wouldn't feel very comfortable with getting like specific directions in front of everyone. Sometimes they would like not to be overly, you know.
I would assume so. What do you think, Sarah?
I think that on a set, it really depends. Like if it's like really light, kind of like, oh, go here, do this, do it like that, I feel like that's fine. If it's
if it's something personal, deep, dark,
or like more intense, it's better to take people aside, in my opinion. But like again, like light stuff, like I'll add a little laugh, or like minor stuff. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
so that's all clicking together. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was all the just the things I wanted to quickly run through. Even if it was like a repeat of what we already talked about. But does anybody have any comments on that? Brian, V, Daniel, Simon, Sarah, Priscilla.
No, I'm gonna yeah, this is good. This is fun. I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursdays. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with what you said. It's like, it's always good to pull them to the side, especially if it's like, and sometimes even gain people who know each other, even if it's a romantic scene. Like if it's like,
they did state action scenes and romance scenes need constant direction because they're sensitive scenes. A lot could go weird or wrong.
They said fight scenes.
Yeah, fight scenes. Fight scenes or action
romance
scenes.
scenes.
You could accidentally punch somebody.
Actually, they said sex scenes. Sex scenes and fight scenes need constant blocking and.
I said romance, to be more polite, but
I'm just saying, action scene can have less direction than a sex scene, but a sex scene really.
Well, think about it this way. This is a good joke, but action scenes. I'm
like I've been on shoots that it's just like it's just like they never did rehearsals. They just brought two actors on set, to actor and actress, and it's like, okay, now in this scene you're gonna kiss. Wait, what? That wasn't in the script. Oh, that's new in the script. We just wrote it this morning.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think that's okay.
No, it's not okay.
I've seen that happen, and then the actress bit the guy's lip by mistake, and he was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah, comfortable can leave.
If the actor's not comfortable, then like you said.
Yeah.
V said the more comfortable they can leave, there can be more room for creativity in the performance. So that's definitely.
This was on a big TV show too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I know they did
anything
that
else,
in
it's like
like Game
almost
of Thrones and stuff. They would just all of a sudden be like, "Oh, by the way, you're gonna be nude now."
Oh yeah.
Actors were really like, "Oh."
But they said that later on, it became like after they stated that they were uncomfortable. Thankfully, they managed to be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you felt this way. I'm sorry." Like on one point, I was like, "You're an idiot. What do you mean you? I didn't know you'd feel uncomfortable out of nowhere me asking you to get naked." But thank you for bringing it up to me.
One music video I was on, they just got the costume designer and myself in, and it's like, okay, you guys are gonna make up the washroom now. I'm like, wait, what?
Oh wow.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything if you're not comfortable. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Guys, it's almost 1. I'm hungry.
All right, I was gonna go through the rehearsal stuff real quick because it's not that much, but
We haven't had dinner.
unless you guys just want to call it here and we talk about rehearsals some other time.
No. Like I got the
I
rehearsal.
feel like we already went over a lot of it during
Yeah.
the whole conversation, but I just wanted to kind of quickly go over it again.
We can go over it quickly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, is everybody good with that, or you guys want to go? Okay.
I'm just gonna run to the washroom.
So in the
Action.
rehearsals, what was that?
Action.
All right. In rehearsals, they say like the first one is the table read. That's the first rehearsal. We talked about that already before. You want to kind of describe the tone of the story and what the pacing is so that they kind of know. But then if you have multiple table readings, you can just do the first one can kind of be your hands off, not really directing it. You're just kind of letting them go and reading it plainly, not even in character sometimes, just kind of dry read. They say, just to get kind of like the tone, you'll kind of see like the tone of how they're going to say the line without them being in character. So you'll kind of see where they're coming from anyway. And then you guys can all discuss what dialogue is not working, or did they understand the character arc? Did they understand the story overall? Is it easy to follow? Is there anything they're confused about? Question and answers and all of that kind of thing, so that you can kind of go through and discuss what's missing or what needs to be taken out, stuff like that. They say one of the person said that they time the sessions so that they don't go on too long. They'll do it on their wristwatch so they can see like how long they've been working on one scene and kind of get a feel of how long it's going to take to go through the rest. So it's
how long it'll take to shoot, that kind of thing. Yep. So they can time it later.
But mostly it's just to keep the actual table reading itself in a condensed amount of time, so you're not doing 10 hours of table read. Let's see. If there's a lot of dialogue, then someone was saying you might want to think about kind of making that its own 3-act structure with a beginning, middle, and end, so that you can work through. It's easier to work through that way. When you're going over the scene, it's easier to have like, okay, let's say this is act 1 and this is like building up the tension, and then now we're here and we're going to go through the middle part, and now it's going to escalate and we're going to go to the end, and then we're going to be at the conclusion and it's going to kind of settle back down. So then like that will give them a sense of what's happening in the scene and what's happening with the dialogue, so that they can have a better understanding of how to read it, and how it plays out, so that it's not just complete monotone.
That's a good analysis of putting it. Like I like to tell people when I'm DPing, like, and I get a script with a lot of dialogue, and it kind of gets on my nerves a little bit, because like we'll shoot like one segment and I'll be like, yo, what? And I'm thinking we're done. And then like, all right, we got to finish shooting this. And I'm like, we got more to shoot? Like, I thought we were done. And they're like, oh, no. Like, it's all in one office space, but it's like 10 pages. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, if I had known that, like, I would have thought about it a little bit differently. Because like the movie, the one Quentin Tarantino did where it was like The Hateful Eight or whatever, the one where they were all in the cabin. Like it's just one big movie in the same setup in the scenario. So you have to think of different shots to go with and how you're going to make different scenes in the same scene.
So it doesn't get boring, right?
Yeah. But then you also have to have the conversation of like, is this dialogue even necessary to even have there? And then you got to work, because that was always my biggest problem.
Do you need 4 hours to
tell
a
and
story?
It still is my biggest problem, because like I do still find myself like writing too much dialogue, where it's like, now I need to because you'll know in the editing when you're like clicking away, you're like, dude, it's never gonna end. And then you gotta like try to like cut some of this dialogue out to find like what's really important to getting there. So that is a very good.
Did you try like limiting yourself to a specific number of pages to see if that would help?
Yes, I did. I did notice that if you watch movies, like each majority of scenes run like 1.5 to 2 minutes. It can go further than that, but like the average scene in a movie is like 1 minute and 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So that's kind of like where I try to like get each scene like to at least be like 2 pages or less. So always remember that like you don't. I think I was trying to tell. I think I was mentioning that to somebody in one of the script, whatever,
script writing
on the Facebook group, the script thing I was mentioning. I was like, you have a lot of dialogue that's just not going anywhere. You might want to consider cutting some of that out. But yeah, I think like the general rule of thumb is like 2 pages to. You can go further than that, but once you like cross into that 3-minute mark, then you're gonna lose people because they just lose interest because you really haven't gone anywhere.
Or you're just over explaining, or you're running around in circles with that same dialogue.
Exactly.
Yep. Castlevania season 4.
Oh God, yes.
But a good way of getting around that is to like break it up into scenes. So if you have a 4-page scene or within the same scene, break it up. Like here, this is where we're gonna change the tone. We're gonna switch the angle over here. You might change the music up or add music or whatever. Find a way to like make a different scene out of the same scene.
And that way it keeps it interesting and keeps it flowing a lot better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just feels like it's dragging on for too long.
Sarah, are you high?
No.
Okay.
That's the thing. Like when I'm just not going there today.
Okay.
Talk to me.
Okay.
We have more time.
That's okay. You can you can go there next on Thursday. It's almost 1 a.m.
All right, so I'm gonna keep going. Another thing is to be open to ideas for the script and the characters. Whether you're the script writer or the director, you always want to be open to new ideas and new takes on things, because that's what the rehearsal's for. It's trial and error right then and there to see what works, what doesn't. So don't just be closed off to it being exactly one way and this line has to say this. Like certain lines, of course, will lead into something later in the script, maybe. So that will have to be there. But majority it can be changed or adjusted, or certain words can be adjusted with certain words can be adjusted. We're still saying the same thing. You can still be saying the same thing, but they might not say it the exact way the line is written. And just be open to that, and especially to characters, like, because if you have an actor that really starts to learn their character and knows like that, or feels like they would be better doing something a certain way, really listen to them and figure out if that would work or not. If it does work for the story, then think about implementing it and changing some of the lines maybe, or changing the script a little bit just to kind of let it be more of a collaboration. You want to maybe the second time or after the first time for the table reading, you want to go through the lines and thinking about what each line means and what is the meaning behind the lines. That way, when you get on set, you don't really have to think about any of that. You guys have already discussed everything and you know what's happening and you know why it's happening. So rehearsal is a really good time to get everything, to get all of the questions out of the way so that you can kind of figure out what's happening in the scene and in the script as a whole. And so you can everyone can be on the same page, especially once they get on set. They say have a Q&A. Even if you don't have all the answers, you can bring up some questions and allow everybody to think about it, and then they can come up with the answer later down the line. Maybe they don't know why a character is doing something yet, and then everyone can think about it. The actor and the director can discuss, and maybe the actor comes up with a reason, like a background information reason why that would be happening, so they can get more into the character. They say you have a rehearsal, and even if you only have about 30 minutes, you should try to do a rehearsal. Try to get it longer, of course, but if you only have a little amount of time, it's still good to get at least one of the harder scenes in and try to rehearse it so that the characters can really get down the character if it's a pivotal moment in the scene or in the script.
Yeah, because like they said, when it's filming, you're working time, money, all that.
Yeah, so you don't have time to like work with it and figure out the problems, and it might take an hour to come to the conclusion of, okay, this is what's wrong and this is what we need to change. Or for everybody to get on the same page, it might take an hour. So you don't want to do that on set. You want to do it beforehand, and that's what rehearsal's mainly for, is to figure out everything before you get on set. So it's time to be open, try different things, see what might work, see what might not. Helps to get the actors open, comfortable, and that create that director-actor relationship, and decide which scenes you're going to rehearse, pick the most continuous scenes or pivotal character moments, and work with those first, just in case you can't do future rehearsals, or if the rehearsal runs too long, you get through the main moments first. Make sure the actors are listening and working honestly, using themselves, and they're finding some authentic connection to the character. You want to, hold on, let me see. Sorry, it's just like these are a little more for, well, then after rehearsal.
But your handwriting was super easy to read.
No, I can read it. I'm just trying to see like when to bring this up. So that's just regular rehearsal. And then you have something called a blocking rehearsal, which is when you figure out the camera movements along with the actors. And usually you should bring in like the cinematographer and maybe the assistant cameras in to kind of see how the actors are moving around. If you can get onto the actual set that you're going to use, that's perfect. If not, you kind of try to figure out the space as best you can, because it's going to be different when they actually get on set. But it's just the general blocking of the scene and how it's going to go about once you actually have the actors and see their movements, see how they naturally react to things and where they go, what they do. And then you can tell them, hey, you need to like, I know you like walking a lot when you get all pumped up, but try, you're going too far over there. The set's going to be smaller than that. So you need to just take a few steps less, and you kind of give that direction so you can figure out how to block it. Whatever your rehearsal is, you always want to set the goal up for the rehearsal. Is it set for the physical movement, to connect with the characters? What is the rehearsal for? You need to let that known to everybody coming so that everyone can know what they're trying to get. What's the goal of this?
Yeah, otherwise you're just there like, okay, what are we doing? What are we having?
Yeah.
There's no direction.
They say it's good to take a few minutes to talk about each scene before you rehearse it, just to get some questions and ideas. So you can kind of explain, what the scene's for, what it's about, what the tone and emotion is of it. And then you can kind of see if anybody feels like it doesn't work or whatever. And then you can decide to try it anyway, or try to implement the ideas before you even start the rehearsal. It says, don't expect the actors to use their full emotional investment in rehearsal. They should save that for on set when they're actually doing the role, because it's a lot.
So don't judge the entire performance off of the rehearsal.
Yeah, it's just to kind of get an understanding of the character, and to build that actor-director relationship.
That makes sense.
And that's it. Yeah. And then the other stuff is just repeated information, like knowing your story, the characters, the environment, backstory, text, context, and subtext, so you can answer all the questions that the actors have or anybody else has. And yeah, that's everything, guys. So
any comments, questions?
Anything I left out of rehearsals, why they're important, what you would do on it, etc.
5, 4.
No, not today. Yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday.
All right, one last thing I'm gonna say.
The only last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna show what we're doing this week. Sorry, guys, a lot longer than I thought.
Yes,
it's because there's so much to it. That's why.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but it was really productive. I really liked it. I think we all got like different points of view, different perspectives, interesting debates. I really liked it.
I loved hearing all the questions and ways of doing things, because that's why I love this group so much, is hearing everybody's perspective and learning from each other and bashing ideas off each other and like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I'll try it on my set or whatever. It's really cool to hear everybody's different take. But anyway,
That's true. And I'm trying to keep as like positive as possible. I have a tendency to deep occasionally. So
No, like, I'm just joking. I hope you know that. I'm just messing with you. And sometimes I know you like to play devil's advocate, and I like joke around like you're like thinking too much about it, Sarah. You're like, or something like that. But we're just joking. If you really feel passionate about something and would like to understand it better, like, is this what you mean? Like, oh, I think differently. Like, honey, it's a study group. You know, I mess with you just like Brent messes with me, and Daniel messes with me, and stuff like that. But like,
I told her she needs to be a
It's
little
only
more careful with how much she messes with everyone now, because I feel
what? Brent is super rude to me in the video.
it's not just about the individual that you're talking to at the moment. It's also about the rest of the people not wanting to speak up because they're afraid of being bashed.
Well, yeah, but Brent bashes me all the time.
Yeah, and is that good necessarily? Maybe.
Well, I told him to stop, but he jokes later. Like
I know. I'm saying it's not. I'm not saying jokes are bad. I'm just saying.
Sometimes playing around is
yeah, no,
is
definitely.
kind of an icebreaker.
But that's the thing. I'm always clear. Like, I'm joking. I'm messing with you. I always say that afterwards. I just want to make sure that Sarah doesn't feel like we're repressing her.
We?
That I'm repressing her. Or anything.
Should I play some cricket sounds, Priscilla?
No.
Wait. Let me go through this, guys. I'm
Shabakti.
recording. Hey.
Okay.
With Thursday, we are covering advanced camera movements and the equipment needed. That's like steady cams, dollies, cranes. We're going to actually look at all the different shots, how we talked about it a little bit, but we're going to really like delve deeper into it and see how it goes about getting done. There's a lot to that. Blocking, like we kind of mentioned it in this one, but blocking is going to be a subject for Thursday of how to block and how to set up your scenes and shots. So this one's more to do with like cinematography. When today's meeting was more about acting, but Thursday will be more about cinematography, blocking. And then the last thing is the storyboard. And I feel like it would be a good idea to have everyone kind of do a storyboard, I think I'm going to make an assignment thing out of that, because I think it's a good idea to kind of get everyone thinking about shots and stuff, even if you don't want to use a storyboard on your project. I think
it would be fun to see how crappy your drawings are. No, I'm kidding. There are programs for that.
But there's also there's also websites. There's like Google.
Yeah, I have some apps I can send in the group.
I actually have it right here in this syllabus.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's there's a few websites that have it. There's a free template that you can get that you can start working on, or you can kind of just do it on a piece of paper, because all you have to do is like make squares and some little explanations underneath.
And there's also books for you could get with storyboard books.
Yeah, and that kind of show you how to go about doing it and everything like that. I think I have one called Storyboarding 101.
You want me to send some links for those, or?
You mean are they like blank books that you can fill in?
Yeah, blank books that you fill in.
Yeah, send that to me.
Okay, definitely.
But yeah, that's what we're covering on Thursday. So everyone be sure to check it out if you're still watching this recording, or thanks for everyone who stayed in. And that's all I got to say. So
I was just going to say, you can finish the recording.